Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Clarence Monteclaro. Just really wanted to appreciate everyone for this opportunity to share some knowledge and interest in regards to native seeds. This is actually our first go at the Global Agriculture in Action Torrance Unified School Garden Consortium. And our hope is that on an annual basis, we're able to do this collectively, grow our support among the school gardens in Torrance Unified, and share knowledge. So today is September 12th. We're looking at a heavy queue of lectures in regards to native seeds, heirloom seeds, but I think it's of high interest for our volunteers, our parents and teachers, for student learning. So just acknowledging some of our sponsors from Victor Elementary School and Hickory Elementary, as well as Burt Lynn Middle School here in Torrance Unified. We do represent the Parent Teacher Association as volunteers on these campuses, and really appreciate all our volunteers in regards to the management of any gardening activity for our students. And also inviting our connections in the community with the Madrona Marsh Preserve and Native Center, as well as the South Bay Parkland Conservancy. Also recognizing the land that uh, where we're educating our children, with our connection with the Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, as a form of acknowledgement of the unceded land, as well as appreciation of native seeds culture, in that has been invisible, that we would like to be visible, and those relations to be built within our community, as well as connections with Seed Savers Exchange in regards to heirloom seeds. So without further ado, just for those who were taking interest in regards to the images of our flyer and the agenda, it is one that is shared in regards to the uh, Pomo Indians. It's demonstrating, in this case, the collection of seeds by Cecilia Joaquin from Hopland. This is up north in California, using this seed beater and essentially hitting the seeds off of these plants that have matured into this beautifully woven basket. And this was being traditionally done for thousands of years, and even until recently, within the past 200 years. So just wanted to touch on how impactful our area is, the South Bay community, Torrance in particular, being within the peninsula with Palos Verdes to the south. You have the beach cities of Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, El Segundo, and this is covering the West Coast Basin. To the north, you have the Santa Monica Mountains and the San Gabriel Mountains, and then all the way down towards San Pedro. We are in the land of the Tongva, which means people of the earth, who have inhabited this land for over 8,000 to 9,000 years, predating its discovery by the Spanish explorers. And it's our goal to learn more about that. This is actually a early depiction of the Playa del Rey, Marina del Rey of life as it would have been found by the Spanish explorers. Very integrated, multiple villages in regards to the South Bay area, not necessarily just one tribe, but multiple. And at this time, we're looking to appreciate that through excavations, as well as connecting with the ancestors, the descendants that are still here in regards to that way of living. So South Bay Parkland Conservancy actually cares for the conservation activities at Hopkins Wilderness Park here in Redondo Beach, just adjacent to Torrance. And this is a depiction of the Tongva Lookout Point. which is elevation in the park that overlooks the West Coast Basin, the Santa Monica Bay, and on a clear day, you could actually see the Santa Monica Mountains and perhaps even the San Gabriel Mountains further north. And connecting with the Madrona Marsh Preserve, one of the few wetlands that are still in existence and being cared for and maintained here in the city of Torrance, but overall in terms of South Bay. For those who are in the area, really welcome them to consider visiting it at various reasons during the wet season as well as the dry. Really appreciating the variance in regards to that ecology. And just highlighting here in regards to how the Tongva people have been honored this in Palos Verdes. There's a landmark at Abalone Cove Park, recognizing this in 2021 in regards to commemorating their legacy and existence to this day on unceded land. Loyola Marymount University also made acknowledgements in regards to this with a memorial that overlooks the Bologna wetlands. And they've been engaged in regards to restoration efforts and building relations since 1987. This monument is present there, designed by Robert Durame, and that featuring many of the beliefs and connections to the role of humans, of man, in balance with nature and the ecology. And here students are experiencing the history as well as the importance of native plants in that culture. And just highlighting here some information in regards to the Bologna Discovery Park, just at the north end of the LMU campus on Lincoln Boulevard and Jefferson. There are still remnants of this park that are being preserved despite the progressive development and construction surrounding it. Interestingly, there has been preservation on school districts at LAUSD, specifically the Kurumvunga Village Springs and Culture Center and Museum at University High School is an area that's being managed by a nonprofit, the Gabrielino Tongva Springs Foundation. For those that have yet to visit, including myself, I think it's of high interest to recognize that these efforts are being acknowledged on school campuses. An interesting topic in regards to restoring land to the native people, and that was in regards to the October 10, 2022 article in Los Angeles Times highlighting an acreage of land for the first time in over 200 years being returned to the interests and conservancy for the Tongva people and their ways, currently being run by a nonprofit, the Tongva Taraksat Paksavaksa Conservancy. And with our connection with the Gabrielino Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, acknowledging a recent, on August 2nd of this year, the Presbyterian Church of San Gabriel returned this land where a community center was to the Band of Mission Indians for their upkeeping and in appreciation and recognition of tribal land. On the website for the Gabrielino tribe, they highlight LAUSD honoring the Tongva people as well as their history and culture. This was done in October 2024, something that for Torrance Unified itself, if not having done it previously, would be of great interest and consideration. President Biden made similar acknowledgements And this can be found historically accounted for on the website for the Gabrielino San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. And here, just wanted to spend the next 10 minutes to showcase what was shown on Good Day LA on NBC, I believe. I'm just going to play this video.
No way.
Sorry. Just gonna.
The gecko was just.
Sorry about that. Just gonna let the ad play.
Just spotted down the street.
I've always wanted to meet him. Ever since Geico's 24/7 emergency roadside service got us out of a jam.
Sounds like you got more than just savings, my dudes.
Sir, do we know you?
Get more than just savings. Get more with Geico.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the patience and coming into this beautiful studio and start with this important town hall. I'm Glad Venegas, and I'm joined by Sinclair Zamora and Kate Snow. Before we start off today, we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement and blessing. And for that, we're joined by 5 members of the San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva, who are standing right beside us, Mona Morales Recalde, Chief Anthony Morales, Elder Art Morales, Andrew Morales, and Tony Recalde. Go ahead.
Niha, Netwatnane, Mona Morales Recalde. I am a descendant of the first people that inhabited this land, the San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva. The territory of our people is what is commonly known as the Greater Los Angeles area, Orange County, and the 4 Southern Channel Islands. We are the traditional caretakers of this landscape, known to our people as Tovangar, living in community and in relationship with the environment for thousands of years. Our relationship with our land and water was at the center of our lives and spirituality. We continue to respect the practices of our ancestors by honoring all that Mother Earth provides. Our perspective is that Mother Earth provides natural relatives for subsistence and not currency. We walked on this land, tended this land, and survived in harmony with the respect to the balance of Mother Earth. Current day living is extractive of Mother Earth, viewing land, water, oil, and gold as a commodity, causing climate issues and imbalances. The issues we experience today, like housing, food uncertainties, that did not exist pre-contact. Our people learned to live in harmony and in respect with each other and Mother Earth. Los Angeles and this county was a balanced world when the first people lived on this land. We thought and lived in community at our core, each person a natural relative possessing its own natural gift that contributed to benefiting the tribe, not just an individual. Comparatively speaking to our current day, community is necessary. Our history is not well told and understood by many. Our history after colonization is troubling and complicated. We suffered and survived extermination efforts on this land. Indian boarding schools existed as an attempt to strip us from our culture, land, song, and dance. Despite these efforts, in our language, we say Equishem, which means we are here. We struggle for visibility in the busyness of this world and to see our imprint on this land on top of the concrete and lights that now occupy the unceded land that originally was documented and described as majestic and very lush in every respect. The landscape of our ancestral area is bountiful and beautiful. Our efforts to be visible are compounded by overpopulation and dense living. Our tribe, and like most California mission tribes, is not federally recognized. This is our ancestral land, and the government does not recognize our tribe despite the atrocities that were imposed on us. Yet, Equishem, we are here. We do this work for our future generations to create visibility and awareness on our continued presence of Tovangar. Despite proposed assimilation efforts that were not inclusive of our ancestors, we continue to exist. Equishem, we are here. As we welcome you to our land, and we have this shared acknowledgement of this being Tongva land, we offer you a blessing and in healing.
I'm Chief Red Blood Anthony Morales of the Gabrielino San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. And as Mona mentioned, you are on one of the oldest villages of our ancestors that inhabited which is today Los Angeles. Before there was a Los Angeles, it was a village of Yagna, which my ancestors inhabited. So again, I'd like to welcome all of you here to Yagna, to Los Angeles, to one of our original Indian villages of our ancestry that dated way back before there was a Los Angeles, which Los Angeles was founded 242 years ago, and we've been here way before that. So again, welcome all of you to Yagna, to Los Angeles. With me is my son, and he'll introduce himself.
I put this in my ears, and I haven't asked anyone to repeat themselves in over 3 months. This is magic. I wish I tried this.
Mihayo yaya, mihayo tatarum, the Torrance hurumut navakit onik Tongva, Tamagat enikuk, Tamayat, Shihanak Yagahanar. Again, my name is Andrew Gotti Young Cloud, and I am a cultural leader of the Gabrielino San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. At this time, I'm going to do a prayer in my native language, and I'm going to do the offering of the 4 directions. Many hurada, many hurada, many hurada, many hurada. Equishem to hold the hon. To Tamagara Kakana Ketama Ashu, Tuoma Tokabat, Pima Mohut, Nyok Choit, Nona Kuiwut, Wiwut, Hurers Pash, Patahat Tarahum, Hutawach Tavagan, Tavakana Bana Kodo Tarum, a Toroid, Motet Headwit, Nyok Choit, Toipat Akahin, Hutupiash Ate Ahra. Many Hurada, Haramuk Pukushem, Haramuk Pukushem, Haramuk Pukushem, Haramuk Pukushem, Equishem, the whole wheat.
We're going to close with an honor song. It's an honor song to our ancestors, everybody's ancestors who's here tonight and who isn't here tonight. And the interpretation of this song is, oh my ancestors, listen to my heart. Oh my ancestors, here is my heart. Tairanu kanishu neshu naha kwanishu naha kwahe naha kwanishu naha kwahe. Tairanu kanishu neshu Tairanu kanishu neshu naha kwanishu naha kwahe naha kwanishu naha kwahe. Tairanu kanishu neshu Tairanu kanishu neshu naha kwanishu naha kwahe Naha Kwanishu Naha Kwahe. Sai Anu Kanishu Sai Anu Kanishu Naha Kwanishu Naha Kwahe. Naha Kwanishu Naha Kwahe. Wata Taiha Nuka, in the memory of my ancestors and your ancestors.
You're muted, Clarence.
Thanks, Lydia. Just wanted to acknowledge that in appreciation of the topics for today in regards to getting us in the right mindset of where we're trying to teach our children in regards to California native gardening. It really comes down to the roots, the land, the soil, but also the culture, the people that it nourishes. And I'm just gonna pull up the slides that I have to present with Miss Ellen Paulson as well as Mr. Jeff Genuine in regards to permaculture habitats and the seed library at Victor Elementary School. And just highlighting Victor Elementary School Community School Garden actually has 2 locations on campus on the west side as well as on the north side of campus. Both of these gardens have been in existence for quite some years, long before my children had attended the school, and really acknowledging the years of dedication of the teachers that founded it, as well as have maintained it and continue to involve the students there. And one of the goals is to sustain it. Permaculture approaches being the model that we're wanting to develop and expand upon and share. Here, just recognizing Permaculture 1, Permaculture 2, both published in this in the 1970s as well as 1980, published by Bill Mollison, as well as his grad student, David Holmgren, both from Australia. So in these books, they sought to introduce the ethics of caring for the earth, as well as caring for the people on that earth, and looking to ensure the sustainability of what's being shared and harvested from the earth. 12 principles came from both of them independently in the 1988, where Bill Mollison published the Permaculture Designer's Manual, as well as Dave Holmgren in 2002, publishing his Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability, both touching on shared topics of design that looked at our way of engaging the land, the area that we're hoping to manage for horticultural purposes, to use these principles to optimize its use without exhausting its resources. These are just touching on highlighting without getting into detail regarding these design principles, but how we can observe and interact with nature, recognizing that itself has opportunities for us to learn, rather than being interventional and imposing our will on nature. Looking for ways to catch and store energy. This is relative to solar energy or water, and ways to make that more efficient and sustainable. Obtaining a yield, yet recognizing that our activities are intentional, that we are hoping to garner from our activities as much resources and nutrition and experience and knowledge in these activities. Applying self-regulation and accepting feedback, acknowledging that there are limitations, natural limitations to the processes of gardening and horticulture that at times are not necessarily intuitive and beyond common sense, but appreciable for those with experience to acknowledge. Producing no waste with the intent to not so much as a closed system, but making sure that resources are utilized optimally and that things are not necessarily exceeding the need for your purpose. Design for patterns, from patterns to details is essentially just an approach where you're recognizing before you get into the minutiae of what to do or what it is that you're trying to accomplish, looking first at what it is in nature that naturally occurs and looking to emulate it. And then from there, looking at how you can streamline that or be more particular in regards to the approach. Integration rather than segregation, recognizing that there's a communal aspect to these activities in horticulture and opportunities to gain from it. Using small and slow solutions without necessarily being, how should I say, too eager to get things done, acknowledging that there is a process, there is a learning curve in regards to this, and to do it well does take time and experience and troubleshooting. Use and value of diversity, recognizing around us is a very diverse world of creatures, of insects, pollinators, of plants that we would find very difficult to emulate, but is something that would be appreciable in terms of making sure that the ecology is being developed. And then using edges and value the marginal, recognizing that space is limited, opportunities for using the edges of your raised beds or taking every opportunity to recognize different microclimates and how you can use those to develop and explore your horticultural activities, and then creatively use and respond to change, recognizing that things are always in flux, even seasonally or within your different microclimates, recognizing that certain approaches may have to be adjusted and evolve with what you see. So one aspect at Hickory Elementary we were trying to incorporate was a holistic no-till approach, a no weeding, no fertilizer, do nothing method that is reflective of Masanobu Fukuoka, who published The One Straw Revolution back in 1978, where he recognized the benefits of continuous cropping, making sure that the soil was never laid bare, that there was always an effort to grow, even as crops stood, to take that opportunity to seed and cover crop. And then seed balls was something that we've yet to actually incorporate at Hickory Elementary, but something that we're looking to do in the future. The idea being that when seeds were strewn to the ground, they weren't necessarily germinating at great rates. And Fukuoka found this approach of placing seeds with clay and some organic matter as a better approach to planting his seeds and seeing his germination rates improve. So just showcasing some visuals here. The school garden at Victor Elementary has been established since, I believe, the 1990s. There's a portion that was primarily a lawn adjacent to it that we were looking to develop in a sense, just to let it grow. We did add certain features in regards to a demonstration area where we were attempting to grow corn. One where we had raised beds to the right lower picture, where we were wanting to nourish the soil through cover crops, sequential cover crops, and in this sense, not digging them out, but just cutting them down and then reseeding, as well as raised beds to troubleshoot diverse crop growing. And here, just seeing the, so from winter of 2024 to 6 months later, around 4 to 6 months later in 2025, just advancement of that period, noting a diverse amount of growth in the lawn, recognizing multiple natives as well as invasive species growing, natural pathways being created, essentially areas that were already being utilized and with growth has become more evident. The bed in regards to the no-till area was recognized in terms of the different stages of that growth. So seeing that this red clover that was growing once they seeded was left there. We did then reseed it again to allow the new sprouts to grow through essentially the dead cover, and that would essentially help preserve the water retention, preserve the soil structure in regards to the roots that remain there. And over time, our hope is that this helps reestablish the life within the soil simply by no-till approaches. And just highlighting here the seed library that we're wanting to establish at Victor Elementary. This would showcase an opportunity to do so at other campuses and sharing these seeds. We have my daughter actually starting with the bladder pod, one of which we did grow and plant in the Victor Elementary School Garden, which Anne will be speaking about later today. But we're hopeful that this idea is one that plants a seed in our libraries and is able to grow. And I'll hand it over to Ellen.
Hey, everybody. So I'm going to start my timer here. So the regenerative practices at Good Shepherd, at Victor Elementary School. Clarence, you are the one that still controls the PowerPoint, correct? Okay, thank you. So basically, I'm sure you guys are familiar with cover crops and soil health and why we use them. But the kiddos at the school most likely are not. And so that's why we make it a real point to implement these processes, as well as teaching them what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing, things like that. So the garden itself, I don't know the full history of it, but I know that Mr. Genuine is one of the gentlemen who started the garden process with the kids. I mean, I want to guess what, Steve, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? How long has it been?
I've been here about 15 years now.
Okay, 15 years. So I'm basically just kind of coming in and picking up, where they last had the garden, which unfortunately was, kind of taken from them due to COVID and the school shut down and then not really being able to do much with it. And so I'm kind of picking up the forward movement of the garden with Steve and just excited to show the kids, the things that we do specifically with cover crops, as Clarence was talking about. And so the picture that you see there is just one of the beds where we were growing 2 different kinds of cabbages. And in order to not only keep the soil covered, but to start the process of rebuilding the health of the soil due to the couple of years that it was forced to sit dormant. We've got cover crops that are in there. There's cover crops that were growing before I even got there because a lot of hairy vetch was popping up all over the garden this year. And so we just added some buckwheat and some clover to it. And so you can see that it definitely filled in beautifully. And the benefits of the crops, obviously, you all know, but they're also listed on the left-hand side there. And again, the whole purpose is just to try to rebuild the soil so that we can get it to a healthier point and produce more yield, and also teach the kids about the benefits and the need to really grow a healthy soil so that you can actually grow healthy produce. So that's what is, so that's what's happening in that photo. And it's been done in the beds pretty much throughout. And we're looking forward to doing a lot more of it this winter by putting several cover crops together. So I think a mixture of about 7 seeds is what we plan on putting in these beds, and just letting them work their magic over the winter so that we're prepared for an even more high yielding, fruitful spring and next summer crop growing season. So, and then we're also teaching the kids that the cover crops are very beneficial to several different types of insects and earthworms and different things like that in our garden. And again, just trying to teach them that there are not only the plants that benefit from it and microbes that we can't see, but there are pollinators that benefit from the cover crops as well. You know, below the ground, we've got our earthworms that are doing their work. And above the ground, we've got our, you know, our bees and our ladybugs and hoverflies and different insects that are beneficial to the garden in their own way, but really thrive when they've got healthy soil and plants that they can live off of. And so we try to keep that balance in mind as we go through the process of teaching the kids how to look at soil and how to use natural ways to grow it and to keep it healthy, and just try to stay away from chemical pesticides and herbicides and all that kind of stuff. So it's all in the beginning stages, and yet the kids are very fascinated by it, and they are learning a lot of different aspects, and we're excited to just continue on that process with them as this is the beginning of year 2 with these new regenerative practices in this garden for the school and the students. And so there's one of our earthworms we're very proud of, one of many in the garden. So anyway, the kids love to find them and count them if they can, which is great to have them be so fascinated and interested in just how they move and how they feel and what they look like. And so anyway, Jeff, Steve, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, my big thing that I'm coming from is that the garden, when I came here 15 years ago, there were 2 gardens. There was one on Spencer Street that Stephanie Atkinson was taking care of, and then the one that when I came here had been totally left untended by a teacher who had actually developed it years before and had been gone for several years. It had sat there dormant, and nobody had done anything. And when I came on campus, I talked to Bill, Mr. Baker, the principal, and asked him if I could get it going, and I got it started. And it was a lot of work. I was a younger person back then and had a lot more energy. And then gradually another teacher, Tim Magnus, who just recently retired, and April Pages came on, and we formed a consortium, and the 3 of us, you know, kind of started developing the 5th grade garden on Victor Street. Stephanie, unfortunately, passed away a couple years after I'd been here, and then a couple of the teachers in the lower grades had gradually started taking care of the Spencer Street garden, but that was never part of the 5th grade interest at the time. We tied in with a group called Grades of Green, and we ended up doing some grade awards, and we ended up reducing the solid waste landfill contributions that the school was making of 16 bags a day down to 2 bags a day through our recycling, reusing and composting. We were able to compost a lot of stuff, and the garden was taken. I mean, you're right. COVID did take a big chunk out of the school here, but the biggest chunk came when Mr. Magnus retired. Actually, he had some health issues and he was unable to participate. And Mrs. Page has had other academic things, and I was left with the garden. And that's the reason I'm here, is to talk about. I started getting the big push 2 or 3 years ago about really this had to be a community effort, not a teacher effort. Because just like the teacher who left before me and left the garden, sat here and had gone back to Chernobyl, in the time period when Mr. Magnus left here, and I was unable to put the time into the garden that we were as a team, and it had kind of regressed. I mean, you see the cover crops that were there. We were following Masanova's Bucanokus with the clover and some of the other stuff in our garden over there. And it's like Ellen addressing that, she saw the growth there. We had a lot of great programs, but it can't be a teacher-driven program. It requires community, and even with the VEEKs right now, we need to get parent volunteers for supervision, because that's the big problem that we have, is supervision and being with the kids. What's being required of me now this year in the classroom is far more than what I was doing 5 years ago. I mean, with the accountability and all these different things they want us to be documenting. So I'm by myself because Tim's gone. Mrs. Page is not able to put her time in here because of Skechers and all the other things that she's taking care of. I'm really pushing. It's like when Clarence came on and when Ellen came on, it was a godsend for me at the time, because I was looking to get community involved. And every time I would talk to the district, I'm just a teacher. And trust me, when there's a totem pole, I'm at the bottom. And parents, you guys are at the top. And it really requires this community involvement where everybody starts to realize and see the big vision. The west side needs to become the green side. I mean, the Torrance has a great talk. They'll talk the talk, but we need that community involvement to make sure that we are the fountainhead, or we're the spearhead for the follow through. We got them to plant 5 trees, but they think they're done. They think, well, we got 5 trees in. And I said, well, what about the rest of them? And what do you mean? There ain't going to be any more trees. And I said, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. I go to the LACO greening of the schools with the LA County. They have every year, and you should have 75% of your campus covered with canopy. And we should get rid of that asphalt desert that's in the middle of the school. The PTA has that entire green area over there they could turn into a community garden that would be residual income. But it comes from parent involvement, and the community needs to be made aware of this. And we need to have the housing prices. Once the school becomes that community center, this whole area just becomes that desirable place, that mecca that everyone wants to come to. It's like in Lawndale, like they did that environmental school there. And we've been there a couple of times. Everybody wants to go to that school, but there's no room because everybody wants to go there. They branched that school off to Inglewood and further into the inner city. I think the lady's got like 6 schools now. They're charter schools, but we can do similar things here. The problem is every time I want to do something, the district says, well, once you're gone, no one's going to follow through on this. I'm saying it's not me. It's the community that wants this. And they said, we don't see that. And so I've been stopped more times than I care to mention. Yeah. And it hasn't been until recently that we've been getting momentum, but it's because of the community. And that's what I'm trying to push is we need community. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get on my soapbox and get going.
But those are the points in regards to why we created this consortium, actually. Right. And we're actually going to hear next from Lydia from Hickory Elementary. But really appreciate, again, Victor Elementary, a legacy, right? Yeah. Long before I started this past year, as well as Ellen. Yeah. And that's something that we want to be sustainable, definitely the community component. And the hope is that we can network using this as an opportunity to do so. Lydia, did you want to share your slides? So we'll be talking about Hickory Elementary, and a fascinating thing was when Lydia and I first got connected, it was actually through Ellen. Lydia shared her heirloom tomatoes, the Cherokee tomatoes, and highlighted for me her sources, preferred sources for it, and I was just fascinated, not having really a full clue. And I think that's something our parents, our volunteers, would definitely benefit from. Your experience with heirloom seeds and crops at Hickory Elementary.
So let me get my, hold on one sec, my screen up.
Well, Lydia, before you get into your talk, I just want to officially say hello.
Hi.
Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah. So my oldest, Brandon, was a student at Victor. So he went there initially. So that's how I saw the garden program. But at the time, I knew nothing of gardening. I didn't garden. I don't even think I had a house plant at the time. So I saw it, so it was in the back of my mind. And now my youngest is at with Hickory Elementary School, and I kind of forced the garden program onto them because they had a very large patch of dirt at the entryway to the school. There was nothing there but a big muddy patch. The kids would constantly just pick at anything that they would try to start growing there. And so I'm like, they got to put something in there. So that's how that came into being. And then, I have so much extra resources on a regular basis for my company. So I figured, I'm like, I remember who has a garden. So yeah, that's how Alan and Clarence came into my life.
Well, we're glad to have you in ours for sure.
Yes.
And I'm a complete nerd when it comes to seeds now. So now I know what I'm talking about. So I'm happy to share what I know to help you guys. I'm not sure, Clarence, are you able to share my screen, or were you able to get the link?
Right, you would be able to share. If you're not able to.
This is disabled.
Oh, okay. Let me let yours.
I'll kind of start while you sort it out. But so my name's Lydia. I am a farmer / gardener here in Torrance. I have a farm up in Mariposa, which is near Yosemite, California. It's about 30 minutes, 40 minutes out from the property. I used to be an event planner. I was an event planner for 18 years. I went to culinary school. Before that, I was in the Army. Oh, okay. Thank you. Let's see. I was in the Army. So in my previous life, I knew nothing when it came to farming or gardening or anything of that sort. But in the last, let's see, my youngest son, his name is Robert. My youngest son was born, and about 2 to 3 years in, this is kind of what we offer here, but I'll kind of get to him. So he's the reason why I do what I do. See, it's not sure if it's catching up. There he is. Okay, so that's my Robert. He, around the age of 3, we started noticing that he had not really hit a lot of his markers. He stopped talking altogether. And so, I have an older son who's also autistic, so I kind of saw the same signs in him. So I took him to get evaluated. I kind of already knew, so it's just more for the formality of it. But his biggest thing is he has something called pica. So with pica, they have the habit of putting anything and everything in their mouth, no matter if it's edible or not. They just want to put something in their mouths. And you can kind of see him off to the right there chewing on something. He would eat dirt, he would eat sand, he would eat rocks, he would eat the walls of our house, anything he could get his hands on. So when I tried to take him outside to get some of his energy out, thinking perhaps that might help, but we had a succulent garden in the backyard, and he would just eat that too. So I thought at the time, well, let me put in a garden for him. At least I could put in something to distract him or give him an opportunity to eat something that's more edible. So I tend to go full throttle on everything. So I ordered 250 5-gallon buckets from a restaurant near our house. I asked them to save them for me. They're pickle buckets and mayonnaise buckets. So I went, picked them up. I had a truckload of soil dropped off from a ranch in the area, and I started my garden. And the first year was atrocious. I didn't grow hardly a thing. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. So the second year I tried to start again from fresh, from the very beginning. And my plants weren't coming out properly. They didn't look like they were the year before. They looked misshapen. They weren't the right color. They only grew a little bit and then they would die. So I jumped in headfirst into the dark chasm that's seeds. And I started to understand, there's quite a bit of dysfunction within the seed saving community. So I had to really understand how things function. So I came to understand that, the GMO, the hybrid, the organic, and then the heirloom. Those are the assortment of seeds that are readily available. GMOs are not available to the public. That's something that's only for large conglomerates that have the money, research areas. Those are genetically modified. You'll see seed packets that are, real poignant about saying non-GMO. That's just a marketing ploy. You can't actually purchase GMOs as, a regular public person. So that's just a marketing ploy. So if you see that, you're just paying more for having that stamp on there. So then I tried my hand at hybrids. But with hybrids, it's really just a public version of a GMO. The parent plants are cross-pollinated to feature certain things that are the better option of the plants. So let's say you have a cabbage that's pollinated with another cabbage that's more resilient to powdery mildew. You breed them together to hopefully get what it is you need for the next round. The lineage it takes a long time to be considered stable. The quality, it's a great start and it did help me out quite a bit the first time around because the plants were pretty strong. But then the following year, I learned to understand that you can't save those seeds. So it ends up being just a complete waste. Oh, actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. I think my son is asking me here. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, and Ellen, I don't know if we use hybrid.
I don't.
No, only because of the organic options.
Yeah. I only use the organic.
Yeah.
So this is all the seed saving that I've done is just organic seeds as well.
I use heirloom seeds from Baker Creek.
Are heirlooms always considered organic? Because when I do find heirlooms that are organic, then I'll get those seeds as well. I was just curious.
Okay.
I don't have
Sorry, his tablet fell asleep there, so I had to get it for him. So the hybrids are great for that first starting to get an understanding on how things grow. The plants are usually stronger. They hold well for your first time around. Good for beginning gardeners. But again, you end up having to rely on a seed company for those seeds. You can't save them. They just won't hold. You might get lucky that it might have some of the characteristics you want, but for the most part, it just doesn't work. So from that, we started trying organic seeds. So any kind of packet that you would see that would have a label of organic on it. The same issue with the organic. It's still run or handled by a pretty large company. And it only means that it's an approved approach to how the plants are raised and how the seeds are harvested. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what they use or what methods are being used are still something that you would want to use or want in your garden. Just like organic fertilizers or organic pesticides, it just wasn't a feasible item, at least not in our garden. So our properties, we use 0 pesticides and 0 artificial fertilizers. And that took me quite a time to figure out how to get situated. And a lot of it came from setting up, the proper channels or the proper environment of having native plants to attract the bugs I needed in the soil, the pollinators, the birds here as well. It took a while to be able to get all that situated, plus growing the proper items that I needed to repurpose, compost, and put immediately back into the soil. With organic and hybrid seeds, you still need to buy a lot of subsidies. So a lot of compost, a lot of matter to be able to get your soil replenished for the following year. So that option just wasn't going to hold, especially because if you were still growing these items and they had certain chemicals or treatments for the seeds that are still technically approved, like arsenic, I can't have my son eat it. So everything revolves around him being able to pick anything off of any plant at any point and put it in his mouth. So we had to drop the organic option. And then I found my way into heirloom seeds by accident. So I had heard the terminology, but I honestly didn't know enough about it. So I went to the Baker Creek conference. It used to be in Ventura. This year they decided not to have it here in California, but they're based out of Missouri. So with the heirloom seeds, you're talking about a seed that has a long lineage of, they say 50 years, but sometimes, especially with California, you can have multiple harvest lineage. So some of my seeds will go through 4 full rotations, like my cilantro. I go through 4 full cycles every year. So, and it still, holds up. It doesn't matter the season. I just learned to plant it in different areas, but it's 50 years old. Now with the heirloom seeds, heirloom will hold the lineage, the structure, the genetics of the seed. So whenever you grow your plants, you harvest them, you can save your seeds for the following year. So it took me 3 years of growing my seeds, and now I'm using only organic methods. And when I mean organic, I mean absolutely nothing in the garden. So all my seeds now that I've had here are fully organic, heirloom property, nothing else. I will not grow anything in the garden that is not an heirloom. Now, heirloom for this region is there's a limitation as far as what is available here, but you're still talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of varieties within the state of California. However, what we're incorporating into the gardens here are same grow zones, different region. So we grow a lot of things that are similar to Okinawa, which is the same growing zone as Torrance. So we can grow the same things here that they would there, and it grows well and holds up so that we can, kind of expand the variety that we have. And as I started kind of going through it and meeting additional farmers and other gardeners, you start to realize who owns the seed companies and who really has their hands in all of this. And I just didn't know at the time. When I bought my seeds originally, I would go to like Home Depot, Armstrong, and just pick up a packet, not second guessing where these seeds came from. And then you start to realize as you go down the line of the subsidies, and then the main powers that be, a lot of these are owned by pesticide companies. And it's not like a hidden thing, or it's not a theory or anything of those lines. They're held by certain companies, and those companies have the power to control the seeds. Heirloom seeds are typically just handled by much smaller companies or gardeners who are just passing the seeds along to other fellow gardeners. It's not profitable to grow heirloom. It is simply to have the control of growing your own crops from your own seeds and not having to purchase anything outside of the home. My initial seed order was $483 almost 4 years ago. I have not had to buy more seeds since that first purchase. Now I'll try a couple of varieties here and there, but for the most part, the heirloom seeds are a little bit more, but they are a little bit more because you get to keep them forever, unless the plant doesn't do well in your region. But other than that, you don't have to worry about it. You also, let's say if certain tomato plants that I have, after the third year process or the third year rotation with them, they now are very resistant to powdery mildew or blight because they've gotten used to the ecosystem that I have them in. So they've gotten stronger as the year progresses. So my seeds might be stronger than, say, one of the farmers that I know out of Nebraska. It handles much differently. If they send me their seeds here, it'll still be the same plant, but it'll take a while for that plant to become stronger to handle the ecosystem that I have here. Now, with the garden that we're setting up at Hickory, we're focusing only on heirloom and not having to go with having to buy additional material once the system becomes in place. But we're starting from scratch there. They had a small garden that was abandoned a few years ago. So with this video that's coming up, it's just to kind of showcase and to understand why we are trying to lean towards heirloom seeds rather than having to rely on larger companies for the seeds that we'll be utilizing.
So Lydia, can I ask you a quick question before we get into the video? So when I am at Armstrong, and they have heirloom seeds, with Botanic Interests, the brand, are those a good quality heirloom seed or no?
The problem with those particular seeds is they're all handled and grown with the same other seeds that they also handle. They're not really necessarily treated or grown with those same standards in mind. So they're still treated with pesticides or chemicals. A lot of these companies hold the rights to certain seeds. So if you wanted to get, let's say, a cherry tomato, a yellow cherry tomato, that cherry tomato is owned by DuPont, which comes out of Israel, which is a company that uses slave labor. There is no way around it. No matter what anyone tries to tell you, they don't sell, no one has the rights to those seeds except those companies. One company will own an entire lineage of seeds. And at the time when I started falling down this rabbit hole, I was appalled and shocked as to no one talks about it. No one really knows about it. When I work with my clients, everyone's sitting like, what do you mean my cantaloupe seeds were in the hands of an 8 or 9 year old little girl?
Right.
Like, that's where they come from.
So those heirloom seeds are not heirloom seeds.
No, they're coming from, unless it is a specific mark as an heirloom, but their heirloom seeds are still being handled by the larger companies. There's only a small list of, the list is up here, the companies that we utilize the most, unless you can, like with botanical interests, they are still owned by a larger company. They're subsidized by a larger company. You're okay to use those seeds if you want that type of heirloom, but I'm trying to be able to educate enough people to understand that unless it's a smaller company or a trusted source, your trail of seeds are still leading back to that same company because they're trying to get their hands into that. It needs to be a company that will showcase and show their information to prove that they are not using child labor, that they are not associated with a fertilizer or pesticide company.
Okay.
So I avoid those seeds.
Okay. Thank you.
And Lydia, I was just going to share your information before I played the video, just in the interest of time. Do you know how long the video is?
It's, I believe, 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Producteur.
Sorry.
It's not in French.
Pour la composition des tomates, auraient à s'en occuper au premier chef et plus rapidement que nous parce que c'est eux qui ont l'impact le plus important.
The hybrids offer another great advantage for seed suppliers. Their seeds are single-use. If you plant the seed of a hybrid plant, the genes mix, and when the plant grows, it's the luck of the draw. The tomatoes could be small, striped, or misshapen. This is why farmers must buy more seeds every year. A profitable market, given that the manufacturers sell these tomato seeds at a very high price, like Limagrin in Israel.
How much is 1 kilo of seeds of this kind of tomato?
This kind of tomato today can reach the 400,000 euro.
What?
For kilogram of seeds.
What?
400,000 euro or more. Yes, you can buy a house with this.
I've heard that the tomato seeds is the more capital gain of all the seeds.
Yes. Yeah. The margin, our margin is the highest that we can get in tomato.
Why?
Because it's expensive seeds. There is a lot of demands. So it's a good business for us. If it's not, we are not here.
The small yellow tomato, the most expensive variety in the greenhouse, costs $450,000 for every kilo of seeds. Even so, for a basic tomato, it is $67,000, double the price of gold.
This is handwork. They need a lot of labor to make seeds.
And where do you produce the seeds, the tomatoes?
Like we told you today, in 22 different countries today, all over the world.
And like which kind of country? Like
Israel, like in Thailand, like in Chile, in Spain, in India, in many places.
Seeds sold for the price of gold and produced by hand in countries with cheap labor. Welcome to the era of seed globalization. The tomato trail has led us to India. It was this report with a young girl on the front cover that prompted us to take the flight. Soiled Seeds, commissioned in 2015 by ICN, a Dutch NGO. In the seed sector, 16% of workers that produce vegetable seeds are children under the age of 14 years. These seeds are produced in the state of Karnataka, in remote villages that are amongst the poorest in the whole country. Here, the climate is mild for vegetables. Every year, 160,000 kilos of tomato seeds are produced to then be exported. The 5 biggest multinational seed companies can be found here on this plain: BASF, DuPont, Bayer Monsanto, Syngenta, and Limagrain. We are going to travel across it, together with the Hindu god Ganesh and one of the researchers from this NGO that works against child labor. In India, working before the age of 14 is illegal. Ravi Raj roams the area to count the children in the fields.
ನಾವು ದೂರಿಂದನೇ ನೋಡಿದಾಗೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಡ್ ಕೌಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ದೂರಿಂದನೇ ನಾವು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅವ್ರು ಸ್ಮಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕಲ್ಲಂಗಡಿ ಬೀಜನ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ರು.
Along with our translator, we approached the children.
Sorry, Lydia, was that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see the little ones there. They're not 14 years old. They never are 14. They teach the children to lie about their age once you start working there, mostly because a lot of the countries where the seeds are gathered from, most don't have school available to them after the grade 3 or 4. Some go as high as 5th grade. I think India goes as high as 5th grade, but after that, there's no school available to them. So a lot of people end up going out to work in the fields. So in addition to the labor practices for these seeds, Heirloom Seeds have up to 50% more nutritional value to them than what you find in the store. So they, people often wonder, well, the tomatoes don't taste the same. We have to take additional supplements. We don't understand why. When, I was a kid, I didn't have to. It's because when you're talking about growing the volume of food that's necessary for grocery stores, the only way to be able to support that is to use hybrids where yield is the factor, not nutrition, and not flavor. So tomatoes, nowadays, you're talking about 50% less calcium in a tomato than a hybrid. And it's not like a made up factor. It's, people, when I start to talk to people about this, they think, oh, you're becoming a theorist or crazy loony person. But it's like the studies and everything is there. The seed companies will tell you if you ask them. They just don't talk about it because, why bring it up if people are going to be buying the seeds or they're buying our tomatoes anyway.
Right.
So, you can still grow a large yield of produce with heirloom seeds. And that's what I'm trying to teach these kids. My clients, I coach clients privately, and then I install gardens in private homes and in businesses. So I'm trying to teach them that you can get the yields that you want from an heirloom plant, as long as you have the practices and the ecosystem in place to support them. Now, I wanted to show you real quick what my 2 plants. I have 2 plants that I have for tomatoes. And I want you to see what those 2 plants gave me so far. And I've already had about 15 pounds that we've eaten so far. So there's one. There's another one. There's another one.
Yeah, when do we visit, Lydia?
Yeah, right.
That one. And then I still got to sort what's in here.
Wow. That's incredible.
It took me some time to figure out how to do it. But now that it's set in place and we live in a zone where we can grow continuously straight through the year, there's not a single time except for last week because my kid was sick and I couldn't do a thing. But we are in the process of switching out for the fall.
Yep.
Everything is set for fall, and we're going to be putting in our garlic, our onions, our crop cover plants. All it is a constant rotation. It never ends, and there's like I don't buy produce anymore from the store. It's been almost 3 years that I've had to buy a potato, lettuce, tomato in the house. We don't buy anything from the store anymore.
Lydia, really appreciate it. I think that's exactly what we're trying to incorporate at our school garden. Jeff's already been delved into the heirlooms for quite some time now, and it's definitely something that we want other school gardens to have an interest and understanding of. But speaking of seeds, I did want to transition to one of our Gold Award recipients with the Girl Scouts and the Canada. Thankful for her for being available for this presentation, but also for her project all this year. And did you need me to share your slides or?
I've sent the request to share my screen.
Yes. And so really looking forward to working with you, Anne. I already informed the second graders at Victor Elementary in regards to your pollinator project and perhaps scheduling a time in October or sometime this fall.
Yes, thank you. So my name's Anne, and I'm a senior at West High School, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my project Pollinator. So Project Pollinator, it started as my Girl Scout Gold Award project. I wanted to do something focused on the environment, and I was looking into a lot of the different environmental issues. And one of the main things was that I noticed that not a lot of people were talking about was the decline in pollinator populations. So I wanted that to be my main focus. So at its core, this project is about creating native pollinator gardens in communities, and they're planted with species that are native to the area, which means they naturally grow well here and they provide right food and shelter for pollinators. And these gardens don't just help with wildlife, they also serve as an outdoor classroom for students, so kids can see up close what these pollinators are, and they can learn about how vital they are to our food systems. So that was the goal. It was try to making something sustainable and educational. So one of the other reasons was because there's lots of habitat loss because of urbanization and building infrastructure. So my project works to combat in 2 ways. And the first was by planting gardens filled with native plants that provide food and shelter. And second was educating people on how they can make a difference. So even small steps like planting milkweed or choosing native flowers and avoiding pesticides, it can all make a really big difference in the long run. So I just wanted to go through the process a little bit of how we started. So first, their main task was weeding just to get a good foundation. And we spent a couple weeks on that, and we started during a time where there's actually a lot of rain. So in between the weeks that we couldn't come because of rain, we used cardboard to cover the plots just so we could reduce the amount of weeds that would come back every week. And next we started planting, and these are a few of the things that we planted. And you can see in the last picture, there's like pollinators starting to come in. And I think that was like one of the best things about this project was actually seeing everything working out. It was really exciting. And next, I installed signage for the plants. So there was the metal signs with the sticker labels of what the plants were. And I also put a QR code next to it. And when you scan the plant, it would go to this informational sheet that I made, and it will tell you the scientific name of the plant, fun facts about the plants, and just things that could help you decide if this is something that you want to put in your own garden. And in this last picture, it's kind of difficult to see, but I've circled some of the caterpillars on the milkweed.
Nice.
But yeah. And I also wrote and published this workbook. It's on Amazon. It's called Project Pollinator, and it's a children's workbook. And there's lots of pages that can help you create your own native pollinator garden. And also there's activity pages for kids. So if that's something that they're interested in, I just wanted to have something that kids could use to further their interests. And I also held a couple of educational workshops. I did this at West High School's environmental club. So we had several meetings, and I had this curriculum made, and we would go through these different presentations on how you can start your own. And initially I also had presentations about why this topic's important, just to let people know. And I also did a presentation at the Audubon Society meeting, and it was just to widen my audience, and so hopefully at least a few people would be inspired. And I worked with a lot of people during this project. So I had a lot of help from our school's environmental club and South Bay Parkland Conservancy, the Victor Elementary School Garden ambassadors, and also staff. So I wanted to thank everyone for helping me get this done. Yeah, thank you.
Great work. And
well said.
Yeah, I know that with your book, you actually had in mind to do activities in the classroom. And just flipping through the book, it had a lot of worksheets. I was curious, have you had that opportunity yet to develop the component of it, whether it's coming from the book or just working with the students themselves?
Yeah, I've worked with a few elementary school students just like on my own, and I've used some of the activities from the books, and also I have like a curriculum that I made that kind of goes like along with the books. It's more in a presentation format. So I've been using that to teach kids. So it's been great.
You know, and we had a situation in the Victor Street garden where we're growing the produce, where the kids in May had planted some giant sunflower seeds. And then, of course, they dashed off to summer vacation. And when they came back, they wanted to, you know, see how big their sunflowers had gotten and are they ready to eat and all that kind of great stuff. And so Jeff and I, Steve, we had discovered that there were no seeds inside of the shells. And so we took that as a learning opportunity on the topic of pollinators. And it was a very cool hands-on experience for the kids to you know, grab a a seed, if you will, out of the sunflower head and open it up and find out that it was empty. And so it was a nice conversation to share. And so I share that because you're right on track in talking about our pollinators. It is a critical issue. And also just to say that, maybe we can stay in communication, because when we've got situations like that where we have like a live product that you could use, and if you've got any like upcoming teaching or whatever that you're doing and you'd like to show in real time, what a lack of pollination does, give us a call, and, we can let you know if, unfortunately, if there's anything in the garden that didn't pollinate well. But then it's a great example, for you to show the kids. And so, a second thing that we did with another group of them is we took a beautifully formed, delicious looking zucchini that was pollinated, and then, the stubby one that, died on the vine because it wasn't pollinated, kind of thing. So just offering the garden up to you for those, benefits, if that's something you would find helpful.
Even the corn, when we had the corn not pollinated.
That's right. That's right. There were so many silks that had not gotten pollinated, so we had corn that just had, empty rows all over the place. So thanks
That's
for
wind pollinated, though. Corn's wind pollinated.
That's true. That's true.
Thanks again, Anne. Looking forward to connecting very soon. And congratulations. So next, we're going to follow that right up with South Bay Parkland Conservancy in regards to the work, actually working with Anne for California natives here in the South Bay community. And we have Mary Simon. Did you need me to share, Mary?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me pull that up for us.
And while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. We at South Bay Parkland Conservancy appreciate this opportunity. And I am a Torrance resident and worked with Anne at Victor weeding and rehabilitating the garden. So that was super exciting. And we now educate through our pollinator initiative about the triangle, as I describe it. Pollinators need native habitat, and we need pollinators for food. So those are the three parts of the triangle. And so that's really neat, the order, Clarence, nicely done that you put these in, because we've got the heirloom seeds. I've bought seeds from Mary's before. And then we have Anne talking about her pollinator garden, and then we'll get into the native plants. So it's a perfect triangle is the way I look at it. And our mission is to inspire and empower communities to protect and preserve their environment. We want to engage people. We want to, generation after generation, give people ownership of the environment and let them know that they can make a difference. And just think of how much more beautiful the world would be if we had more native plants and more pollinators everywhere and more people growing food, because it's all connected. You may advance to the next one. Thank you. Thank you for your help. And these are all photographs from some of our work. And those are some of our tasks there. We started very humbly in 2004, basically to get rid of the AES power plant. That was current Mayor Jim Light assisting former mayor friend Bill Brand. And now we've really shifted our focus, and we want to rewild the South Bay and beyond and move into Los Angeles as well. And education is a huge component of this. Next, please. And this gives you an overview of our timeline, and you can see some of the things that have happened during this time. One of our really important acts is that we were able to shut down the AES power plant. And we also have been working in Hopkins Wilderness Park in Redondo Beach to install native habitat since 2017. We also picked up the Bluffs Restoration Project, which, believe it or not, I was on at the beginning in 2004 as a teacher, and it dropped when we lost the Sea Lab, and South Bay Parkland Conservancy has picked it up again, and Jim Montgomery is in charge of that project, and we're rewilding the bluffs. So there's a lot of history here and a lot of changes, and our organization is going through an enormous growth spurt right now. And we really just want to connect people with nature in positive ways. And we do that through plants and pollinators, which also supports the food piece. We do have a community garden, which we opened a couple of years ago in South Redondo, that has a native hillside garden as well as plots that people can grow their own food in. Next, please. So again, connecting these parts of the triangle, we focus on native plants. I heard you earlier mention hybrids, and we also stay away from hybrids with our natives for the same reason. We want to make sure the genetic stock is able to be passed on generation after generation after generation. And to us, the most exciting success that we see at our habitat restoration is not just pollinators and other organisms coming in, fungi, bacteria, mammals, reptiles, but also to see that we have babies. And when we have baby plants of the plants we planted, then we know that they are being successful. And I know when we worked in Anne's garden at Victor that we saw some evidence of reproduction. There were little poppies everywhere. That is real success to us, and that's what we look for. And this does help to support biodiversity, which is just plummeting around the world right now. Climate change is part of it, but habitat loss is a big part, and there are other things as well. We also want to instill in people the idea that this is friendly for the water cycle. It helps with the climate, and it also helps reduce water consumption because these are plants that are indigenous to this area, and they're adapted for our coastal Mediterranean climate, which is winter rains if it rains, and then summer deciduous where everything pretty much goes to sleep. So kind of the reverse of what people typically think of. Next, please. We have installed signs at Wilderness Park. The interpretive signs just went in the last couple of weeks. We had a ribbon cutting very recently. This is one of them. So we are trying to really educate the public and the community about what they can see when they come to our parks. This one is on the indigenous people, and we have 3 others. Next, please. And again, the idea that we are supporting pollinators by interconnecting habitats. And that can be everything from large habitat restoration, like we're doing at Wilderness Park and then also on the bluffs and along the Greenbelt Hermosa, but also smaller pieces, even people putting in a small native garden in their front yard, or even growing a couple of pots or planters full of native habitat. The pollinators find it. It's really amazing how they manage to find these places. You may click, there are a couple of bullets here that you'll see. And this is not only important for the environment, it's also important for us. Because when we are exposed to native wildlife, it helps with our mental health, our physical health, our social health, our emotional health. Think to COVID, which people act like they've forgotten, all the shutdowns, what it did to our social connections. And nature can bring us back together. Next, please. So our Pollinator Initiative is the title of all of our educational programming and projects. And we do all sorts of things, everything from handing out seed packets of wild grown, collected seeds, collected by us or other people, to taking people on nature walks, to having educational seminars at local libraries. We have one coming up on the 27th in Redondo Beach of September, or going to schools and providing educational programs and anything in between. And when people come in and they want something that we don't offer, we try to find a way to offer it. I'm their education director, and I'm also their biologist, so I can take things in many different directions. We also have a student ambassador program. Anne is joining our student ambassador program this year. We're so excited. She's a rock star. And we really want to engage young people and give them ownership of their community. Next, please. Oh, we have high school scholarships too at several high schools. This is a picture of some of our student ambassadors making seed packets about a year ago. And we're starting up our program again. We do it during the regular school year. And we really just want to give young people ownership of their community, the environment, give them the opportunity to do projects that they can feel successful at and learn all kinds of skills. And I'm sure you learned a million things doing your project with the garden and your book. It's just unlimited what you can learn. Next, please. We have gardens at several schools, including Alta Vista Elementary. This is our first one, started in 2021. Our current president, Aga Chen-Fu, started it, and we still maintain it. And there's a Beach Cities Health District vegetable fruit garden there as well. And so we keep this going, and it's quite happy and successful. And we use it as a model for other schools that are interested in pollinator gardens. Next, please. We also, as I said, we have the Hillside Native Garden at our Redondo Beach Community Garden in South Redondo, which is also in the Alta Vista Park area. And not only do we have people who have plots there, but we also have garden members who don't have plots, and we do hold educational events there. Next, please. We just recently, we've been trying for years, and we finally got in there. Hermosa Valley School has a sand dune behind it, and we are now working with them to help to restore the sand dune and remove the invasives. There are invasive trees there. There are invasive ice plant, one of our nemesis plants, by the way. And it stabilizes the soil. It provides habitat for all kinds of creatures, including, of course, pollinators. And one of the species that we're really targeting is the El Segundo blue, because it is an endangered species, one of the first insects listed in the Endangered Species Act. And we plant specific plants to support them because the larva only has one host plant. That's the Aragonum parvifolium, the sea cliff buckwheat. Next, please. We also just recently helped complete, this is a Girl Scout project as well, a small garden for pollinators at Paris Middle School. And so you can see pictures of it there. And it took her about a year to get all the permissions she needed. Sometimes it's really a tough hill to climb with schools, but we hang in there with them and support in any way we can. And we have so much interest now in our school garden program for native plant gardens that we actually have a process, a checklist that people can follow so they know all the things they need to do on their end so that we can give them the support that they want or need. Thanks, please. And Victor Elementary, of course, I won't belabor that because you just heard lots of it from the brain Anna, and so she went through this whole thing, and you can see some of the pictures at the bottom where we were working on it again, and we cleaned it up, and it's just a beautiful place. So I hope it was gorgeous for the first day of school this year. Next, please. And as I said, we have a checklist, so if people are interested, we can send it to them. The important things are to find somebody at the school site who can lead the project, and then also find a spot on campus where they can have the garden. We need to know a size so we can figure out how to work it, how much plant material they'll need, and then figure out what kind of funding they need. So those are the top line items. Next, please. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm about to be kicked out of the library, so
Mary,
if there's anything.
What's wonderful, and you mentioned Nina Sua. She's the lead over at Bertlin Middle School who helped organize the school garden ambassadors at Victor Elementary.
Yes.
It's something I know now that you're a Torrance resident. One thing that we're worried about is the informality of these school gardens. Actually, the state of California recognizes 0 school gardens in the district of Torrance Unified. And definitely this type of work is something to change that. And I'm not sure from your experience in terms of the formality of your programs, if that's something that it can be progressed or addressed with these efforts.
It's certainly worth having a conversation about. And I'll just add, there's also, I'm with Surfrider Foundation. You can see that from my logo up there. We have an ocean friendly gardens program, which is this very similar. And the idea is that we're preventing runoff and all of that junk from going into the ocean. And we put those gardens on a map, a national map for Surfrider Foundation. So another possibility, you can get signage for SBPC, but also for the Ocean Friendly Garden Program for Surfrider. And if we get those on maps, especially with the Surfrider, which is a national map, that can give us a little bit more clout to push these as recognized gardens. So something to think about. And we can always have a conversation about this offline, but that's something to think about.
Thanks, Mary. Any other questions?
Well, how are the blue butterflies coming along?
We see lots. I lead El Segundo Blue Walks every year, and we see lots and lots and lots of butterflies. And when we plant the parvo, they follow it. So
Nice.
we haven't seen any at Wilderness Park yet. I still think they're too far east, that particular piece of land. But everywhere we plant them along Redondo Beach, they are following us. So it started in 2004, and by 2006, the butterflies had returned to our test plot at Torrance Beach, and that is actually Torrance City. And then we started moving up the Redondo section, and the butterfly is following us. So we don't have an accurate count, but it's impossible not to see them. I mean, there are so many during their flight season. And if you've never come on an El Segundo Blue Walk, please do look at our calendar in March. We'll start talking about it, and we'll have the dates posted for sure. May or June, it just depends on the climate and the weather. But usually we run the walks late June or early July, and they're just amazing little things.
So is Victor Elementary in the climate that they like to frequent, or no?
Too far east.
Oh,
So we can focus on the monarch because the
we
monarch
got
is a
those.
threatened species, and we
Yes.
need to help them with their migratory route for overwintering, and that's where Torrance would fall in. So not a milkweed zone, but an overwintering zone. Same with Hopkins Wilderness Park. So,
Okay, because we had a really good amount of milkweeds that monarchs that showed up this summer. And again, that's because of all the milkweed that, Steve and the previous teachers and whatnot had grown there by seed, and it just started sprouting up like crazy once we started watering. And the kids got to see them come out of their chrysalises, and so it was a really wonderful educational experience. And so we just want to double and triple that area this year in the garden and really get a lot more milkweed going. So just wondering if there's other butterflies we could bring in as well. So
there are, and going back to the milkweed really quickly, please avoid the tropical milkweed. There are all kinds of problems with it. We've got to do the native. That's the Mexican world milkweed or narrowleaf milkweed.
Yes.
Yes, there are other plants, and if you all want, I'm happy to send you. I have a wonderful PDF I downloaded from Xerces Society that talks specifically about plants that will flower year round to support the monarch as it moves its 4 to 5 generation migratory route south, the western monarch. So
I would
yes, we
appreciate
can
that.
have things blooming all year round for them.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You bet.
Mary, did you want to at least touch on friend or foe as something to share?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about a billion things. I try to keep it short because I know you're running behind. When I first came to South Bay Parkland Conservancy, the first thing I said to them was, "You guys don't give away seed packets? Are you kidding?" Well, now we've given away probably 17 or 18,000 since last year alone.
Wow.
And then the other thing I said is, you guys take people down to the bluffs and they don't know what to weed. They don't know what to kill versus what to leave alone. And we don't want people pulling out the plants we plant. So I developed an activity called Friend or Foe. And friends obviously are native, and foes are non-native or invasive species that we don't want there. And it has pictures and the names, and then people guess whether it's a friend or foe, and then they flip the tile over, and on the back it will tell them if it's a friend or a foe, California native versus a non-native, and then some facts about it. And I modify this now for any site that asks. So I think I've got probably 7 or 8 versions of it now. I have a separate one for Hopkins Wilderness Park. I'm developing one for Hermosa Valley. So when a school develops a pollinator garden with native habitat and they want a copy of Friend or Foe based on their species list, I developed one for Paris. I developed one for Alta Vista. I can make that and give it to them, and then they can use it in the classroom, or they can take it out to the garden. And then when the students weed or they want to learn, oh, I love this plant, it's so beautiful, I want to plant it at home, they can find out the name and find out some more about it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, something for Victor Elementary that we want to tag along with Anne's project. Very fun.
Send me a species list. That's all it takes. And then, many hours of my work, I can develop one for you. And then we can talk about the format and how you'd want to use it, because there are different ways to format it too.
So when you're talking species list, you're talking about the types of butterflies that we're seeing?
No,
no
plants.
Okay.
Yeah. So the friend or foe is plants, because we're providing native habitat. And then we can tell you, or look it up. Cowscape.org is a fantastic website if you want to know pollinators connected to plants. But no, we focus on the plants. That's what we do at Parkland Conservancy. We focus on putting plants in the ground and teaching people about the plants. But if people come to me and say, I want hummingbirds, I can say,
Right.
oh, here's a list of plants that would do well in your area. Again, you can go to calscape.org. That's the CNPS website. It's wonderful.
Okay.
But we can, okay, if somebody says, oh, I want all purple or blue flowers. Oh, okay, here's a list. These will grow well in this area.
I guess I thought that's what you were offering, because I was thinking, okay, I've seen some black swallowtails, and then of course the monarchs, and so then I would come to you and go, okay, what do I need to plant for the black swallowtails? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And different swallowtails like different things. Some of them love the fennel or the anise. Others, you saw a photograph of one on there that was a coyote bush that it was nectaring on at Wilderness Park.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mary. So for our next presenter, Liz.
I'm going to have to bug out because they're going to throw me out of the library.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Everybody. Nice to meet you all, and we'll talk again. We'll see you soon, Ann. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to have to leave too. I have an obligation with picking up my international student.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow. Next week.
Oh, that's right. Next week.
Just going to queue up for Madrona Marsh, Liz Evans, who's the director there. Unfortunately, was not available this weekend or today in regards to it, but was able to make a recording for us. So I'm just going to pull that up on the screen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Evans, and I'm the manager of the Madrona Marsh Preserve. I'm here to talk to you all today about ways to get involved in conservation, restoration, and educational opportunities at the marsh. So the marsh is one of the last remaining vernal marshes in Southern California. A vernal marsh is a marsh that is fed by rainwater that falls in the spring, hence vernal, rather than through rivers or estuaries with the ocean. Our freshwater marsh plays a vital role in supporting biodiversity, improving water quality, and mitigating urban runoff. It's a living laboratory where people do invaluable opportunities for scientific research and environmental education. And there's lots of different ways that volunteers can get involved with the marsh and help us out here. Those ways include native plant propagation, habitat restoration, our Advanced Restoration Crew, which is a special youth program for ages 15 to 18 only, scientific research projects about the land, plants, animals that live on it, and also our docent tours, our school tours for folks. We'll talk more about all that later. So first, I want to talk about what's the difference between a native plant, a non-native plant, and an invasive plant. So native plants are plants for our purposes that are from the state of California, but sometimes we're talking more specifically. So sometimes when we're talking about native plants, we're here in the South Bay in Los Angeles. Technically, a plant from Humboldt County is also native to California, but it's not native to right here. That doesn't mean it would survive right here in the South Bay. So when we talk about the marsh's native plants, we're usually talking about plants native to our specific ecosystem right here. When we're talking about invasive plants, those are plants that are really aggressive. If they're allowed to seed, if they're allowed to reproduce, if they're allowed to take hold, they'll take over everything. When we talk about non-native plants, we're talking about plants from other parts of the world, or sometimes even other parts of California that we just simply don't want in the marsh because it's not the right ecosystem for them. Now, both native and non-native plants can be invasive. So the invasive line is not about native versus non-native. It's about how aggressive that plant is. Plant might spread. So on the bottom left, you see we have a picture of mule fat. Mule fat's a great native plant, but if we were to allow it to just plant itself wherever it wants in the marsh, that's all we'd have. We'd have a mule fat plant preserve, and it would actually alter our vernal pools, our marshes, and the other ecosystems we're trying to maintain. So that's the kind of native plant we actually do some thinning. On the right, you'll see chrysanthemum on the top, primrose on the bottom. Those are non-native plants that are highly invasive. And so we have a lot of programs here about removing those kinds of plants too. So let's talk a little bit more about native plant propagation. It's our process for growing new plants from seeds or cuttings that we get from the plants that already exist in the marsh. We do this to ensure the survival of the native species that are adapted to our local conditions here. Because our ecosystem is also rare, there aren't vernal pools all over, there aren't vernal marshes all over Los Angeles. A lot of the plants we're looking for, we can only find here, or we can only find in similar ecosystems around the South Bay. And that's why it's really important for us to go out and collect cuttings and collect seeds and propagate those plants so that we can have them year over year. Our native plant propagation also ensures the survival of the native species that are adapted to here. And it provides crucial habitat restoration and conservation projects. So we couldn't do a lot of our restoration and our conservation without the plant materials that we need. So volunteers are a huge help in getting all of that going for us. Why native plants in particular matter? They support our local wildlife, our birds, our pollinators, and our insects. Often, there's only one or two types of plants that a butterfly wants to lay its eggs on. And so if they don't find those plants, then they don't have what they need. It also provides crucial habitat. So you'll see a heron hiding in the tule reeds here. You'll also see some tree frogs on our smartweed plants. If we don't have the kind of plants they want to live in and amongst, then they won't come. Native plants also use way less water and require far less care once they're established. Because they're adapted to our local conditions, they thrive without all that extra help that a rose bush or some other kind of plant might need. They improve the soil health and water quality here too. So a lot of these plants will uptake heavy metals, uptake bad materials out of the soil. And so by having native plants out there, we're actually making our soil and our water cleaner and healthier. Overall, by adding native plants, we are restoring balance to our local ecosystem here. So when we're collecting seeds from the marsh, we have our volunteers come and gather. You can see them here collecting some rattle pod. Then we clean, dry, and store the seeds carefully to make sure that we have them in good condition when we're ready to start propagating. The seed supply is all of our supply for our nursery propagation. And by doing this activity, we're ensuring the genetic diversity and long-term survival of these plants. We could go to other locations and get seeds there too, but we're protecting our specific genetic diversity here by collecting from seeds and propagating here. Once we have the seeds and the conditions are right and the time is right, then it's time to grow them in the nursery. So from seeds to seedlings, we start them in trays or pots. Our volunteers help germinate, they help water and weed the pots, they pot them up into larger ones, and then when the time's right, usually in the fall, that's when we start planting them for our restoration projects. You can see here that we're just getting some of these started, where others are a little further along. The fun part, planting in the marsh. So this is a great part of our restoration program here. The seedlings from our nursery are put directly back into the preserve. But we also provide plants for different locations throughout the South Bay because, again, we're a bank of native plants you can't find everywhere. And so we're really happy to share that genetic diversity with other locations. So some of our plantings were down at the Manhattan Beach Bluffs as part of the Bay Foundation's Coastal Restoration Project. We had some Seacliff buckwheat. They asked if they could use it for their project. We said absolutely, and so we gave them about 100 plants that are now living on the bluffs at Manhattan Beach. And that's a really important plant for the El Segundo blue butterfly. We've also done plantings out in the community at the 236th Street Park. So folks who live in Southeast Torrance, Lomita area might see this park full of plants and full of life again as they're walking by. That's also from our nursery propagation program here. And then we've also done planting out in different stormwater retention basins or sumps in the city. The sumps are how the city manages its stormwater runoff, and these areas are also really excellent habitat spaces for waterfowl and other kinds of local wildlife. So by adding our native plants in those spaces, we're providing more habitat throughout the city and connecting wildlife corridors all across Torrance and the South Bay. Now a little bit more about our invasive plant challenge at the Marsh. So invasive plants compete aggressively with our native species, and they disrupt our natural communities. They reduce biodiversity and they diminish the quality of our habitat. The way they do this is the plants literally grow up and over our other existing native plants. So in this image, you'll see creeping water primrose. It's probably the biggest challenge we have at the Marsh right now. And as this plant spreads, even though it's beautiful, even though it's really nice looking, I love the flowers, it will grow up and over our tule reeds, it'll grow up and over the base of our willow trees, and eventually it will outcompete those plants and kill them, especially the tule beds. The reason that's so important for us to stop is because the tules are one of the places that ducks and geese choose to nest and lay their eggs. And so if the primrose overtakes the tules, they've lost that crucial breeding habitat that only places like the Marsh and other restored areas can really provide. These plants, especially primrose, also alters the hydrology, soil composition, and light availability. So as this plant grows, its roots form new soil. What ends up happening is we lose the depth in the marsh. It builds up higher and higher layers of soil. Once it does that and we no longer have a deep depression, we're not able to store as much water as we otherwise would. The water evaporates faster. The birds don't have that water in the pond for quite as long. They don't have the depth they need to dive to reach the food they're trying to reach. And it ultimately shortens our water season and our breeding season here at the Marsh. So if we were to let the primrose go unchecked, eventually the marsh would not be a marsh, it would be a flat plain, and we would be a primrose preserve instead of a vernal wetland. And we want to prevent that. So we need to come in and remove this plant. This and other invasive plants require continuous management and restoration efforts. This plant will propagate itself with one little piece breaking off and floating away. It will make new roots. It will send the roots up to 8 feet deep, and it will find that soil and it will take hold. So unless we continually go back and remove, we'll never get a handle on it. So this is a year-over-year project to remove this plant and restore the habitat as it should be. So here's a little bit more about our project managing the creeping water primrose. It's one of the most aggressive aquatic plants in the world. This is an issue that's all across Europe, South America, different parts of North America, so it's not unique to us here. If you were to go to Harbor Park in Los Angeles, you would also see it all over the water there, and they have spent lots of time and energy to remove it, and it comes back every year. So we're busy experimenting with new techniques to really get a handle on this plant. It spreads quickly from seeds and from the broken stem fragments, and it forms dense mats. So if you look, the second picture, top left, that's an example of the mat being removed with a soil knife. And it can be anywhere from a few inches thick to almost a foot. And we will cut it out like carpet. We refer to it as carpet as we saw underneath and we lift it up and out and roll it out of place. You'll also see a couple of our volunteers carrying huge chunks of it, putting it in tarps, digging away at it. We're really fortunate to have a dedicated team of volunteers who help us on a weekly basis to slowly chip away at this problem. Those dense root mats block sunlight, they reduce oxygen in the water. So that's another big issue too. Once this plant spreads across the water's surface, sunlight and oxygen no longer reach the water, and then the water becomes really gross, really unhealthy. A lot of the invertebrates that live in that water die because they can't live in those conditions, and it lowers the overall biodiversity of our wetlands. That's also an issue because a lot of the critters that visit the preserve eat those eat those invertebrates. So if they're dead, they have nothing to eat. They lose that food access. Manual root removal has greatly reduced the regrowth, And then we monitor and repeat and monitor and repeat until we feel like we've knocked it back. So once we finish invasive plant removal, then we move into conservation. So you can see here an example of when we removed a square, marked off the areas of that square, and wanted to see what happened. So first we removed the area and marked it off. Then rain fell. We had late rainfall, and so in March, rain fell and it filled up the area with water. Once that area dried back out, we went back and we looked, and we didn't observe any regrowth in the areas that we did the removal. But we also added seeds from this plant called smartweed. It's a competing plant with the primrose. They look very similar, but their habits are very different. And this is a crucial plant for habitat for birds. So we put a bunch of seeds out there to see if they'd take. And they did. Now we have a nice thick mat of new growth from smartweed where the primrose used to be. So we know that as we continue working and we do this removal, if we follow up with seeds and plants to replace it, they'll take hold and they'll start to outcompete and fill those zones where the primrose used to be. This is a really simple action, but it supports our long-term conservation efforts and habitat restoration. So it's doable. We can do it. So now I wanted to talk a little bit more about science in action. Through education, restoration, and tours, the students and community at the Marsh can become directly involved in protecting and restoring our special ecosystem here. So we'll talk a little bit about those. These are some of the students who are currently doing research projects with us here about the Marsh. So first you'll see Eva and Charlotte. They're from West High School, and they're using the mule fat plant to see whether or not it can absorb copper from contaminated water. So their project is focusing on bioremediation and how plants help with bioremediation. We also have Andrea from West High, and she's doing a similar study, but instead of looking at mule fat, she's looking at duckweed, which is a small aquatic plant that grows on our water. She's exposing those to different levels of copper to measure their tolerance and see if they will help absorb those heavy metals and therefore improve our water quality. On the right, we have Kai from El Camino College, and he's doing a study about what it is about fire that helps lupin seeds germinate. So is it the heat from the hot fire, the smoke? Is it the way the ash changes the pH to the soil? So he's isolated all of these variables and he's testing the germination rates for each of these plants and how the lupin responds differently to different elements of fire. With better germination, we have more plants, and then we have more plants to put in the ground for our restoration projects. Now we have Osvaldo from Cam's High School, and his project was looking at the effects of different water sources on the seed germination rates for the sea cliff buckwheat. He looked at tap water, distilled water, rainwater, water from our wetlands, and water from our stormwater retention basin, and found that the highest germination was with sump water and wetland water, likely due to the microbial activity and organic matter that came along with the water. We also have Eknor from West High School. This was a partnership with the University of Connecticut, and she is looking at how to measure carbon sequestration of our trees here at Madrona Marsh, which is a really useful tool that we'll use in the future. Lastly, we have Annika, who was looking at the effects of tules on reducing eutrophication and toxicity in the water. So she took different sources of polluted water and she had the tules, and she would measure the levels of pollutants in that water over time to measure how they had been absorbed by the tule roots themselves. And this project won a couple of awards. We're super proud of her. Lastly, there's Emily and Chloe from Torrance High, and they did a poppy growing project with their civic engagement class. And then they brought a bunch of kids out from Torrance High to help plant all of the poppies that they spent so long growing. It was really a great day. If you want to get involved in the Marsh, one of the easiest ways is to help out with habitat restoration. We meet every Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You'll learn about native and invasive plants. You'll learn how to use hand tools, and you'll get to volunteer alongside others. The sign-up process is very simple, and it's a great way to get some service hours. If you really enjoy habitat restoration, then you can look at joining the Advanced Restoration Crew. This is a group for kids 15 to 18. They take on a larger leadership role with us when we do our restoration. They come early, they leave late, they supervise, they learn how to use the special tools, and they also do a habitat restoration research or land management project as a capstone. There are also some scholarship opportunities available only to our ARC kids. If you're an adult and you want to get more involved on the educational side of things, we're always looking for more docents. Those are the folks who lead our school tours. There's training, so you're not thrown out there all at once, but if you are at all interested in doing pre-K up to 12th grade, learning about our water labs, leading college tours, and helping with some of our more in-depth field studies experiences, we're always looking for new folks who want to help spread the word about environmental education. So just to summarize, if you're interested in habitat restoration and joining the advanced restoration crew, you can use that first QR code to fill out a short-term volunteer application and get started. If you're interested in signing up one of your classes for tours or a field study experience, you can use the second QR code, which will send you directly to the form that you fill out to request a tour. If you'd like to learn more about the scientific research opportunities that you or your students could get involved in, we ask that you call the Nature Center and ask for Miriam Toibel, or use the email address listed there. And lastly, if you have any questions or need more information about this presentation or the Marsh in general, please feel free to contact me directly at eevans@torranceca.gov. I want to thank you all for taking the time to learn more about the Marsh, and hope you all have a great evening. Thank you.
So this was a great introduction to the Madrona Marsh, and actually after viewing this before our consortium, I sent an email to Liz to see how our students, given its TK to grade 5, perhaps as a school, we could do a science project on site, on campus, that links us to Madrona Marsh. And that would be an opportunity for other grade schools throughout Torrance Unified. So more to come. I think it's a great opportunity and an advantage in terms of vernal marshes or wetlands being rare, but available to us locally. So next, Brianna, I see that you were able to join us with Seed Savers Exchange. Thanks again for being available. Would you like to share your slides? I think you might have to request permission if so.
Sure, let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
How's that?
You got it. Yeah. We can see it.
Perfect. All right, cool. I will just do it from my computer then. Okay, well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Brianna, and I'm the Seed Bank Manager at Seed Savers Exchange. So I'm excited to talk with you all tonight about the work that we do at Seed Savers Exchange with preserving and sharing open pollinated seeds, particularly garden vegetables and fruits. And you can see on this picture here, there's a big 50. We're celebrating 50 years of our work. We were founded back in 1975. So it's been an exciting year. So I have our Sorry, I just accidentally muted myself there. I wrote down our mission statement here. So our mission statement is to steward America's culturally diverse and endangered garden and food crop legacy for present and future generations. We educate and connect people through collecting, regenerating, and sharing open pollinated seeds, plants, and stories. And so, yeah, this is a big mission. And before I get into our main ways that we are achieving this, when I'm saying open pollinated seeds, we're talking about varieties of seeds that are genetically stable. So if you save seeds from the plants you grow and they're open pollinated, you will be able to be pretty sure that your the plants that grow from the seeds that you plant the next year will be very similar to their parents. So you can predict what's going to come from them. And this is as opposed to hybrid seeds, which there's nothing inherently wrong with hybrid seeds, but you can't save seeds from them because they're genetically unstable because they're a cross of two different varieties. And so then when you save the seeds, you could get any wide variety of genetics coming out from those parents. But if you do open pollinated seeds, you'll know what you're getting the next year. And so that's why we focus on those. We want people to be able to save their own seeds. So some of the main ways that we achieve our mission, the first I want to talk with you all about, and the very heart of our organization, is called the exchange. If you've ever been to a seed swap where people bring their own seeds and share them with each other, that's kind of what the exchange is, except through the mail. So this past year, we had about 350 people who were listing seeds that they wanted to share with other people that they had saved themselves. You know, these are backyard gardeners or farmers, just anyone who is saving their own seeds. And between these 350 people and Seed Savers Exchange, there were about 15,000 unique varieties that were being offered through the exchange last year. So that's an incredible amount of biodiversity, which is exactly what we want. We want to keep diverse seeds in our food system because they all have different genetics that can be very helpful, especially in a changing climate. And as I mentioned, there's these 350 folks from mostly the United States, but around the world, who are listing seeds they've saved. But Seed Savers Exchange, we also list varieties from our seed bank. And so this past year, we were listing about 5,000 varieties from our seed bank. And on the left here, you see this image. That's what we have, a print version of this that we publish every year and send out to people. It looks like a phone book. It's wild. And then this smaller picture on the bottom right-hand side is what the landing page looks like on our website. So you can access it from online or a print version. And so the seed bank is another big way that we achieve our mission of preserving seeds and their stories. And so in our seed bank, we have about 20,000 plus varieties of open pollinated garden vegetables and fruits, which is a lot to keep up with. Got a lot of job security with always having work to do around the seed bank. Since seeds are living things, every year we try to grow out as many varieties as we can to refresh the seed before the germination rates drop. We store them in freezers so that their life is greatly extended. We have seeds that are 40 years old and they're still have a fantastic germination, but still every year we're trying to grow out as many as possible to not only refresh them before germination rates drop, but also to hopefully get more seeds so that we can make even more available through the exchange. I mentioned on the last slide that we had about 5,000 available for distribution last year. And our goal is to, of course, someday have every single variety in the seed bank available to the public, because that's where we want seeds to be. We want them to be in people's hands, being grown, eaten, enjoyed, and loved by people, because that's where seeds are meant to be and that's where they're safest. So in our seed bank, we have about 100 different crop types that we have seeds of. And the crop type with the most different varieties in our seed bank is tomatoes. And of course, I can't remember the number offhand. I think it's 5,000 some different types of tomatoes. And the second most common crop type is beans. And the third is actually apples, which are technically not in our seed bank. They are stored as trees. We have an orchard. Well, we have 2 orchards, which with about, I think we're saying about 700 different types of apple trees. And the reason we have them as trees is because you can't save seeds from apples and get a tree that resembles the parent. But through a process called apple grafting, you can get a tree that is like the one that you grafted from. And our fourth most common crop type is squash. And so last year in 2024, we did about 2,500 distributions, roundabout. That's a pretty steady number for us. So that's about how many distributions we sent out from the seed bank to the public, which is our goal, is to get as much out as possible. And here's just a picture of kind of what it looks like. It doesn't look super exciting. It's just kind of a big, very cold box filled with trays of seed packets. But of course, the plants that grow from the seeds are very exciting. And so another way that we achieve our mission of sharing open pollinated seeds is our catalog. We have a commercial catalog where we sell packets of over, it's 600 some different varieties. And aside from just being a great way to get seeds into people's hands, the proceeds from the catalog support our preservation work of maintaining the seed bank and facilitating the exchange. So it's kind of a win-win of getting that financial support, but it's also getting seeds out to people. And aside from those kind of big three things I just mentioned, the exchange, the seed bank, and the catalog, we have a lot going on at Seed Savers Exchange. I forgot to mention earlier, but we're in northeastern Iowa. And so in the upper left-hand corner, I put a picture of our orchard. As I mentioned, we have orchards and we distribute scion wood so people can graft apple trees and preserve these heirloom apple trees. And we're very fortunate to have about 900 acres that are a part of we call it Heritage Farm. That's where Seed Savers Exchange is. And a lot of that is in conservation. And you can see we have trout streams here. We got a fisherman in one of our trout streams. And in the bottom left-hand corner is one of our display gardens. Our property is open to the public, so people can come anytime during the day and either wander the gardens, visit our visitor center, or we have, I think it's about 8 miles of hiking trails. And in the bottom right-hand corner is a picture of some of the cattle in our ancient White Park cattle herd. That is a breed of cattle that is endangered, that we are helping to keep those around by having them at Seed Savers Exchange. And some other things, one really cool thing we do is, this is about every 5 years, we publish this seed trade census. So I have a coworker, Olivia, who goes through and looks at every single open pollinated variety of seed that is available for sale in the United States, and documents it just to see what is available for sale, how many places are selling these varieties. And that way we're able to track which varieties are maybe at danger of not being sold anymore, which can be an indicator of just general endangerment if they're not commercially available. And so that's a way for us to kind of keep an eye on what varieties might be in extra need of preservation just because of a lack of a presence in the commercial world. And on the right-hand side, we have events throughout the growing season mostly. The top there is a seed swap we hosted earlier this year. And the bottom one, we give tours, we have workshops. Actually, tomorrow we are having a tomato tasting event, which is always super exciting, where we invite people to come and taste, I forget how many varieties of tomatoes we have this year. I think maybe 22. And they can write little notes about which ones are their favorite. So one thing I would love to share with you all that I've not touched on yet is how Seed Savers Exchange got started. So as I mentioned, we turned 50 years old this year. We were started back in 1975 by Diane and Kent. And the founding of Seed Savers actually goes back a little ways before that. To when Diane Whaley was a little girl, and she grew up in northeastern Iowa. And one of her favorite things was in the summer, she would visit her grandparents' farm a lot, and she would help her grandpa in the garden. And they had a porch that was covered in these vines, and I have a picture of it there, these morning glory vines with those beautiful purple flowers. And she just had so many fond memories of this porch with these beautiful vines growing all over it. And she would help her grandpa collect seeds in the fall when they were ready to be collected. And then in the spring, they'd go out and sow them, so that every year they made sure that they would have these beautiful morning glories. And when Diane grew up and she married Kent, they were starting their home together, and Diane asked her grandfather for some seeds of this morning glory so that she could have them at their new house. And it was at this time that Diane learned that this was actually a family heirloom. She did not know that growing up. She thought her grandparents just saved seeds because they had lived through the Depression era, and she figured it was financial, being frugal. But she learned that there were some seeds they were saving that were actually family heirlooms, including this morning glory, which her ancestors had brought with them from Bavaria when they immigrated to the United States. So this was something that had been saved in her family through generations from Bavaria to the United States. And so it was at this time when Diane and Kent learned this about these seeds, that not only did this story about how the seed was passed down and saved in her family, not only did that make it even more special and give it more meaning to them, but they realized that they might be the only people in the world, aside from her grandfather, who is growing this flower. And that made them really nervous, that to think that if something happened to them or if something happened to their garden, that this flower could go extinct if no one else was growing it and saving seeds from it. And so they reached out to gardeners through various publications that they thought gardeners might be reading, and basically just asked people if other people had kind of the same problem of having a special family heirloom seed, and being concerned that they were the only people growing it. And by sharing these seeds with other people, you can help ensure that these seeds will be safe, because if they're in many hands, if something happens to you, there are other people growing the seed. So here is a picture. We have Diana Whaley on the right-hand side. So she's one of our co-founders. And on the left is actually a picture of her grandma and grandpa, and you can see them. That's the porch where they'd have the morning glories, and you can see the vines just cover it. So those are the morning glory vines that gave rise to the idea of Seed Savers Exchange. And so by starting this organization that was focused on open pollinated seeds specifically, that always keeps the power of seed saving and choosing what you're growing in the hands of people. If you're growing hybrid seeds, you'll always have to buy those from companies, which there's nothing inherently wrong with. But if you're able to save your own seeds, it gives you even more control over what you want to eat and how you want to nourish yourself. And it also allows you to be a little playful with the seeds you save. You can choose to save seeds only from your biggest, most beautiful tomatoes or from your earliest tomatoes. And throughout time, you could create a relationship with that seed that makes it even more adapted to your garden and your climate, and will make it more successful in your garden. And open pollinated seeds also allow the opportunity for stories to be shared, like the story of Diane's family's morning glory, and adding depth to the fact that this isn't just a cool sunflower that connects her, morning glory that connects her to her grandfather, but connects her to ancestors that she's never even met. And so by being able to share seeds that share the stories associated with those seeds that naturally produces biodiversity in our food system. When people are sharing their own seeds in their own climates for their own preferred uses, that will naturally create biodiversity and also allows for stories to be preserved. And stories are so important for connecting people to their food, connecting people to their culture, to history. So that is our goal, is to share these diverse seeds with the public and have people sharing them with each other. And through that, preserving these diverse seeds and their stories. So that's what I have for you all tonight.
Thanks, Brianna.
That was awesome.
I was just curious because it seems like you have potentially even international exchange. When it gets down to, like, let's say the local, let's say Southern California, is that a tendency in the exchange where they're looking for local seeds that would be adapted to the climate, and in which case that networking sort of happens inherently in the exchange? Or
that's a fantastic question. Yes, so the exchange is set up in a way where you can see which state someone is from. And of course, like California has so many different zones in it. But yeah, you're able to see, also people can list their USDA growing zone. And so from there, people can make decisions about locally adapted seed and whatnot. And we don't have a way of, and we don't track people's interactions. So I can't say for sure about the networking that comes out of it. But yes, people can see, oh, this person lives close to me, and can choose to connect with them for that reason, for locally adapted seeds, and maybe some local networking too, for sure.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Brianna. And you weren't able to check in when Lydia actually presented on the heirloom talk for Hickory Elementary. But similar to those interests, we started a seed library in our library at the school. The idea being just to get the mindset, the grounded mindset of collecting your own seed. So not only planting, but from seed to seed, harvesting, and having the kids, make that a tangible component. The seed exchange concept, not only are you collecting it for the purposes of self-use, but also to share it. And that's sort of what we're hoping with not only just the idea of the heirlooms, but how does it contrast with the hybrids and the organics, as we've learned from Lydia's talk, and then at the same time the commune component. So with Seed Savers Exchange, you have decades of generational transactions and ongoing into the future that we ourselves would like to take part in, and finding a place, likely not as necessarily as individuals, but potentially as the school itself, looking to contribute.
Oh, yes, that would be awesome. Yes, yeah, we have groups like seed libraries in schools who do list varieties on the exchange. And I think it's really fun to get requests in from people, when they're requesting your seeds. Sometimes people include little notes, and yeah, that I think adds, anything that adds more of a community aspect to something is going to give it more meaning and more impact. And one thing I thought of when you were talking is, and I don't know if this maybe was mentioned earlier, but something we recommend if someone is new to seed saving is it can be really awesome to start with beans. Beans are generally pretty easy crop to grow in many places. They're beautiful, and so they can get kind of addicting and can just be a really great place to start with seed saving. If any of you are looking to start with seed saving, beans could be a really good place for you to start.
Yeah, it sounded like tomatoes and beans.
I also like lettuce. I find lettuce to be very forgiving and very prolific as well.
Oh yeah, yes, yes. Tomatoes and lettuce are fantastic too.
And Brianna, do you have to actually pay into it, or is there a difference between the bank versus the exchange?
Oh yes, good question. So no, it is free to use the exchange. Let's see, you just create an online account. But yeah, that is totally free. And then people will list a price to cover shipping the seeds to you. And so people are able to set that price themselves. But we've had recommended prices. And so right now it's like $3 per packet if it's a small seed. And if it's a bigger seed, like a squash or sunflower, it's a recommended price of $4 just to cover that shipping. And it's not just seeds, there actually are also vegetative things on there. Like different people have like, I'm not so versed in this part of it, but like woody fruit vines and starts and whatnot. And we have, from Seed Savers Exchange, we have vegetative alliums, sun-choked tubers, potatoes, the apple scionwood. So there's even more than just seeds, but yeah, so it's just a suggested price that helps cover shipping. No fee for signing up. And then the exchange is the way to access the seed bank at Seed Savers Exchange. So yeah, what we have available for the public is available through there.
And I suspect it's on demand as supplies exist or provide.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So when someone requests something from the seed bank, it's at that time we go and we'll make the seed pack. So we don't have them prepared ahead of time. So we're a bit slower than say if you ordered something from the catalog, that seed packet is already packed. So yeah, it can take us up to 2 weeks to get something sent out in the busy season just because we're pulling packets out of the seed bank and making them ready for each distribution order.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Brianna, for being available and really this connection. I think we'll be connecting soon in regards to that as we move into the fall season and then into the spring, preparing for the spring.
Sounds great. I guess I should stop sharing my screen here, huh?
Oh, no worries. So what I'll do is I'm gonna present, this is our last presentation. I think it's very important, more from an organizational standpoint. And let's see. So funding, seeds funding, just sharing this in regards to from a district perspective, my experience with LAUSD and a program that has allowed them to get bond funding way back in 2013, they were able to secure through bond funding monies to support the LAUSD facilities to develop school gardens or outdoor environmental learning spaces. And again, what was mentioned was that at Torrance Unified School District, there are no formal funding for school gardens, albeit there are around 8 or 9 school gardens that operate. They are informal, likely locally supported, but lack that centralized funding to support facilities in their development. So this presentation is a consideration for Torrance Unified as a school district to look at over a decade's worth of this program in operation at LAUSD. And just for comparison perspectives, LAUSD is looking at overseeing over 1,000 schools in LA County, whereas Torrance Unified is looking at 32 schools. So quite diminished in number, but more conceivable in terms of what that it entails for the facility and administration. So actually on this screen right now is a school garden at Stephen White Middle School. It's a school where I went to many years ago. But it's a 2-acre school garden. Back in the 90s, it was a full ag program, I believe under the Future Farmers of America. And they had emus, they had cows, pigs, so a full ag program. In the back is actually a classroom where our current assistant principal, Mr. Adam Daly at Victor Elementary, was at that time when I started, was the math teacher with his students, taking care of as much as they could portions of this 2-acre plot as it was left untended for many years. So in 2013, we were able to get this started, brought in the community, about 25 or so volunteers who just lived across the street or were neighbors, and wanted to see this become more than just 2 acres of weeds. And they've done a great job in regards to the tending to that. All volunteer base, in contrast to other sites that I've seen where people would have to pay for their plots. This was driven primarily by the Parent-Teacher Association, volunteer base, community volunteers included, and continues to run in regards to the leadership of those volunteers. So the Sustainable Environment Enhancement Development for Schools, or SEEDS, granted $5 million. So this is the Los Angeles residents voting in 2013 for a bond fund of $5 million for school facilities to itemize an item that would permit them to support greening projects at LAUSD. In 2024, so just last year, another $5 million of bond funds under Measure RR was voted and approved for the same program. Now, this has aligned in regards to climate change and efforts to green our schools or improve the greening index within our communities relative to parks, as well as just the green spaces on campus in contrast to blacktop. The goal has been set at 30% of each school site being dedicated to green or natural spaces in alignment with state goals. Research has supported this in regards to the ROI, return on investment, of reductions in chronic absenteeism. Research has also shown that it's improved academic performance among students, help improve attention capacity, as well as decreasing stress levels and reducing mental fatigue and aggression. Partnerships in regards to the LAUSD greening partners, greening programs, where about 400 or so schools to date have been benefiting from these funds, but in partnership with community programs that focus on the management, the sustainability, the programming of these school gardens and outdoor learning spaces, so that once the facilities invests its funding to create the space, there's also a collaboration with the parents, the teachers, as well as community partners to make sure that programming exists to use it and sustain it in an efficient and effective way. So the seed funding is just one component that for many schools would be a huge benefit just to get things started, but it truly is that community engagement, partnership, collaboration that helps it grow and sustain itself and provide meaningful outcomes for our students and the community. And highlighted here is a listing of various programs under categories of whether they focus on edible gardening or greening activities, as well as the arts. And sorry, this was blocking the way, and water conservation. And it just gives schools the opportunity to recognize programs that cater towards specific needs or objectives for their campuses. Here, the greening index was formulated by facilities, smartly so, in regards to 1,000 schools, which do you select or prioritize? And they looked at specific locations of parks around these campuses and attributing a weighted scale or score for it, as well as how much percentage of square feet on campus was devoted to green spaces versus hardtop, and using this as a measure of prioritization across the various campuses. Now, with 32 schools, that would still be relevant, recognizing that many of these schools actually are developed adjacent to the parks and also have significant portions of their campuses already devoted to green spaces, albeit soccer fields or lawns. The intent there is actually to perhaps consider the utility or the use of these green spaces, whether it's being used for educational versus sports or other activities. Should Torrance Unified adopt this approach? Here's some examples, just a few of very many that's been showcased for the facilities. It truly is a representation of not only their specialty and expertise in regards to this subject matter, as it involves much of the issues of irrigation, plumbing, as well as considerations of climate, temperature, use of various materials, purchasing and availability of those materials, especially demanding during the COVID pandemic. Their ability to navigate that en masse for all these schools is really appreciated and irreplaceable in regards to all the informal projects that despite our best efforts wouldn't necessarily be able to formulate to the same degree. So here at El Dorado, ES Seeds Garden Program, you have the raised beds demonstrated with some park benches surrounding it. You have communal areas, benches with intentions to create congregate spaces, pathways at Carthay Elementary School that is also conducive to excursions, outdoor excursions for students. And here just they delineate various aspects in regards to what is expected of facilities with these monies and how it's being used to be invested, whether it's attributes of the soil or removal of asphalt, as well as installation of items, raised beds, benches, work tables, as listed, as well as the other component, which is the school itself in partnership with the community and what is of greatest interest for that community, for the students in their education and the need for outdoor experiences. Here it's a little bit detailed, but just showcasing it for future reference for principals to be aware. What they had devoted was about $100,000 in seed funding for each project, with an additional $50,000 as an option for those that scored higher in the greening index or need at LAUSD. And very detailed. It looks like some of these projects run for 60 days, 6 months, in a quarter quarterly basis in accounts of how the project is being developed, but very detailed, covering large amounts of square footage from 1,800 to 7,400 here as examples. But definitely diverse and complex, and again, highly appreciated to involve facilities in these types of projects. Certainly from my perspective, investing my own interests and funding, definitely a challenge to develop this on your own, but having the facilities lead the way and be adequately funded to do these projects is a huge boon for the community, and one that perhaps is an opportunity at Torrance Unified, and we hope that this presentation supports that. So this is Sheridan Street Elementary School and Park Avenue. Again, just detailing aspects of this, where it is on the campus, and Manchester Avenue Elementary School. And this one of interest is that color coat surface on asphalt at Victor Elementary. Perhaps at other Torrance Unified School Districts, we have just blacktop asphalt, and really the heat that bears down and reflects off of that is something that can be mediated through various materials, various paints, and has been demonstrated at LAUSD to be something of interest. So that would be the end of our consortium. Really appreciate everyone's availability and interest in this. I'm just curious if anyone had any thoughts about that in terms of the funding availability. I know at Hickory, you have your school garden, and perhaps they have their own funds that manages your activities.
Yeah, we have, because I started working on the entryway garden initially, twice a week I would kind of hang out when the preschoolers and kindergartners would be released. So the kids would and their parents would come out to see me. So it was kind of like the ask the farmer a question kind of period. So the parents became really excited about possibly having some kind of program there for the kids. And so once I made available the proposition of the cost of rehauling the garden that they kind of gave up on there, I offered it to them at a discount, because I always give education gardens a discount to be put in. They hopped on it immediately. The PTA they didn't even bat an eye. They just said, go ahead. It took the district longer to approve it than the PTA. It took months for them to find the loopholes that would allow the wording on my contracts for the school to allow it to be processed through. Yeah, it was a doozy to deal with the district. I had to get a couple of other private education centers to send recommendation letters to finally get them I think it was the landscaping supervisor to say, okay, remove the word labor from here, add this word to it, don't show the discount, things like that. And then they finally got it through. It didn't take us very long to get it all finished. But just getting the approval was a big thing. But now all the parents are asking, when is the program going to start? So I'm trying to work with the principal as things start to settle now that school started, to get their entire program in order. And then from there, we'll slowly start to expand onto the school grounds so that there's additional options. The thing with Hickory is they do have a lot of special needs classes. So because my kids are special needs, I want to make sure that there's available options that those kids can still participate in, even if it's something as simple as mixing the soils together, starting the seeds, things along those nature that they are able to comprehend mostly because I have experience on the more severe to the moderate, to know that, you can only push these kids so much, or, make something available to them that they might eat. But we're going to build something so that all the kids who want to participate can. And then the after school program will be for any other kid who wants to also get some experience with it. I mean, that gives the parents an option to, dump their kids on me for a couple of hours and have them learn something. There's so many kids who come up to me and just ask questions about what's in the front, and the parents have to take them away and say, we got to go home. So it should be an interesting year to see how things kind of come to place. But the school there is very interested to get funding in place for it, and to be added into the PTA to get whatever funding is needed to expand the program.
Yeah, I was wondering, and Anne, I think you might be able to speak on this as well, and Ellen. So there's many campuses that don't have school gardens, don't have a place to grow, and we don't just want to abandon opportunities there. Does it necessitate this investment of all this money to make a garden, to do the work that you're intending, if it's teaching about California natives and pollinators, or just teaching about permaculture? Do we need that money? Do we need these gardens?
Well, I'm going to definitely say we need these gardens, and I'm confident that Lydia would say the same thing. There's it's unlimited teaching that you can do through a garden. And regarding the funding, I think it just, I guess just speaking for the garden that we do at Victor, I think it just kind of depends on how resourceful are you, what's your mindset, what's your purpose, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And I mean, Clarence, you helped me hang toe straps around some tall 8-foot pieces of wood that we were using, improvising, because the budget is limited, to to give our green beans room to grow. And what I mean, it just certainly isn't pretty, but at the same time, it definitely garnered a lot of interest, and a lot of conversation about what are those orange and those yellow and black things hanging up there. And so I would explain it to them. And just for those of you who don't know, coming from a homestead that I grew up on, it's that was second nature to me, although Clarence was the one who's kind of started the idea of, hey, do we have some kind of a thing? And so I'm like, yeah, I've got toe straps in my truck. So I think that it can be a balance between the two. And I think that the budgets are great, right? It's nice to have better quality stuff, if you will. But I think that if your heart is literally just to teach, then I think that's going to come across no matter what kind of tool or setup that you're using. And if you don't have a budget, that certainly should not stop you from still putting boots on the ground and a shovel in your hand and making something happen with what little you have, and then just watching to see what the responses are from that and the growth that can come as a result, is what my response would be.
Thanks, Ellen. And any thought, if you didn't have Stephanie Atkinson's memorial garden to plant those native plants, what would become of your project?
Yeah, it would be actually quite difficult, because I think aside from the budget, most of the work was like getting approval from everyone to get gardens going. And I know even in West High, there are people that are interested in starting a new garden. We have a native garden currently, but there are people that are interested in making another garden. And it's less about the budget and more about just getting the approval going.
And I think that's sort of one aspect we all share in regards to the challenges that is under the purview, beyond the work, beyond the interests, and these are regulations, these are rules, that fair enough, control much of what can happen on campuses. But at the same time, they're not secret. And I know there's a question about, you brought up, Lydia, loopholes. But those are things that, aren't necessarily privy or have to be privy to just administration. It really is the work of interest that much of those things come to light, and sometimes need to be better understood, or perhaps even changed or adjusted, so that things that are intended actually do occur. I believe one challenge that we encountered was with the recycled water on campuses, and that being a question of whether it's permissible to use it for irrigation on food crops, edible food crops, or not, on school gardens. And much of it is just more clarifying and understanding from the health perspective of what is recommended and regulated, versus regulations from the water board and the state. So it's something that evolves over time, where maybe 10 years ago it was one way, but now it's another. And for the most part, it's not necessary for that information to be exclusive to just facilities. But I think their expertise on the matter is truly should be appreciated, and LAUSD looking to integrate that with funding, with support, and in collaboration with the community has gone a long way, and presents a great example for Torrance Unified to perhaps consider formalizing their approach and reaching out to the community to support it. But unfortunately, with informal approaches or informal programs, much of these difficulties or challenges in terms of not just funding, but really permissions to do the work of school gardens makes it very challenging. Brianna, I'm not too sure on your end if the seed exchange, if it's crossing state lines, if there's regulations that you encounter, like having a seed library, but then what becomes of those seeds, and recognizing that perhaps it's not just the seed, but that there could be other things associated with it that are concerning. Does that come into play with the seed exchange as well?
Not with the seed exchange. So we do, one thing we do is, of course, before we publish the new exchange book every year, we do go through and look for species that are known to be invasive in different parts of the United States. And so those get flagged. But yeah, when using the exchange, I don't think there's any interstate regulations. I know our catalog has some of those that applies to them, but I don't think that's the case for the exchange. However, I am not the authority on that. But there's none that I know of. But again, I would have to double check with my coworker Josie to know for sure about interstate regulations. Yeah, and one thing that's come to my mind as I've been listening is that we do have some seed donation programs. If anyone's needing seeds, I'd be happy to connect with you after and see what we can get sent your way.
Yeah, I think on our end, it's actually starting like our seed library. We have one, we have a few seeds that we've collected, but it's our hope is it's intentional, and programs like the seed exchange can showcase how that, how the sharing is, how you can benefit from that type of sharing. And yeah, definitely would appreciate any donations, and we would highlight it as a commemoration of our engagement and our intention, but not only, with the seed exchange, but like, with each elementary school having that opportunity, with the county libraries having that opportunity. There's just so much out there that's untapped, and the ideas are, tried and tested, but it's somewhat obligated on us to just do it and create it.
Clarence,
Hey, Lydia.
for the restrictions for interstate, just because we get a lot of imports in for our clients, it's only for produce. There's restrictions, so an actual like end of the line produce selections. There's a lot of restrictions on citrus, most of them being blocked out now. And then for seeds, you can exchange whatever it is you want, but certain seeds or certain countries will be flagged when they come through. And there's quite a bit of, radiation treatments for anything coming from certain countries. So if you are getting something directly from, let's say, Thailand, it does go through a dose of radiation as it arrives. It's a requirement for exchange.
And I suspect that sterilization of some sort.
Yes, it's to make sure that there's certain fungus and certain critters who like to hop on. So it's always treated as it comes through. So that's typically why with our where we order all of our stuff from, it comes directly from the US. It's not an exchange from out of the country. The seeds that they receive, they raise them, and it goes through the 3-year process of approval. And so the seeds that are being sold to us are already like US bound. They're not going in through the other end.
Lydia, can I ask you a quick question? That list that you posted on one of your slides of the different companies that do true heirlooms, do you purchase from all of those, or do you have a couple of favorites?
No, I only order from Baker Creek.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I only order through Baker Creek because I've been able to actually tour their facilities.
Okay.
I tell you, I fell down that rabbit hole, and I was so terrified about where my seeds were coming from and
Sure.
the child labor. So I went to tour the facilities and meet some of the scientists that they have, some of their farmers. So I only order from there. But the other companies have similar practices.
Okay.
But you just have to note specifically on there that it says heirloom.
Okay.
When you order from Baker Creek, it's all heirloom. And they tell you how to save your seeds.
Regardless of the word organic or not.
Yeah, it'll all say heirloom. It's all heirloom. But the other companies, you have to make sure that it says heirloom, heirloom type on there. But again, if you buy a seed that says organic, it was raised under the standards of organic. But once you go through the cycle of growing it yourself with organic practices, then your seeds would then be considered organic after a 3-year rotation.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
3 crop rotation. Then yours you can't sell them as organic.
Sure.
Your seeds are now considered organic.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Because I definitely try to get as many of the heirlooms, that I can find, for example, botanical interests. But there's not a lot. And so I just say then strictly organic on top of that. So that's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all like I have my cat. I have my binders by season. So I keep them in here.
Okay.
So I just go through, and so you'll see that there's no heirloom up here, but it's all heirloom seeds from there. But on the back, it'll tell you how to harvest them.
Okay.
And on the website, it'll also tell you by harvest and then by region. So
nice.
Yeah, when you go through to order, make sure you check the grow zone. Because I had a melon that looked just delightful, and I wanted it so badly, and I tried 3 years in a row. And I finally gave up because it's not good for my grow zone. It says it would be, but it just didn't hold up to Torrance gloomy weather.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you that for the first time in my growing career, we had a couple of mystery seeds that were in the, the organic yellow crookneck squash. And as the leaves are growing and I'm like, that ain't yellow crookneck squash. So I've got an orange something gone there, and I'm not sure if it's just I'm not sure what it's gonna be. So we're gonna investigate it with the kids, and have a learning opportunity. But I was kind of surprised, sealed package, organic, the whole deal, and yet there was a seed in there that definitely is not, what the package said. So
yeah,
interesting.
I would avoid Etsy as well, because there's a lot of China-based companies that are promoting themselves as an independent person trying to sell there, but they're from large corporations. And oftentimes I have clients who get like a mystery seed packet because they sell your information, and then you get a packet of seeds from somewhere. And
crazy.
Yeah. So
Brianna, I'd like to ask you too also a quick question regarding the seed exchange. Is there delineations like we're talking about here, organic, heirloom, you mentioned hybrid, obviously. So is that what you guys do as well?
Yeah, so on the exchange, everything is open pollinated, which all heirlooms are open pollinated. And as far as what we grow at Seed Savers Exchange, that is always organic. But of course, if you're ordering from Joe in California, that's up to him if he's growing it organic or not. So there's different practices from different people, which is one thing that can be noted on their profiles is if they're growing organic or not. But yeah, the exchange is only for open pollinated seeds.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, it's 7:00. Thank you, everyone. And I think, again, sharing with Lydia earlier, the intent of this 3 hours is quite a bit. The goal is to actually take bits and pieces of this consortium presentation and develop more focus, learning points for our volunteers and our parents. But really appreciate everyone's availability. Hopefully this is something we can do every year, and look to bring in other programs and speakers. But for our volunteers, hopefully it's very meaningful. So thanks again, and I hope everyone has a good night, and congratulations, Anne.
Yes, that's awesome.
So have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Clarence.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.